Naruto, in the name of time, I will shake the ninja world. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76. 8 years, the Third Hokage. Outside the underground palace, the Queen of Laolan paced back and forth, looking inside with a worried look from time to time. If it weren't for the barrier set up by Zengai Fen to keep all unstable factors out, the Queen would have rushed in long ago. A roaring sound continued to be heard from within, and that was why the Queen was worried. Now I am completely in the dark and have no idea what is happening below, and she could only pray silently, praying that the dragon vein was safe. I hope everything goes well, the Queen thought silently in her heart. Suddenly, a green light shooting straight into the sky caught her attention. The light was so bright and dazzling that it shone on everyone's face. Then, a terrifying pressure was released from it, and a shock wave burst out from the underground palace, shaking the Queen back several steps. A violent force followed, and just when the Queen was in despair, a mysterious force stopped her. The two forces collided and dissolved into each other. The green light was obviously suppressed and then gradually disappeared. The Queen stared blankly ahead, then sighed deeply, turned and left. No one knew what happened that day. The Queen ordered that no one was allowed to approach the palace, and the Sand Ninja sent people to inquire but were turned away in order to prevent anyone with bad intentions from approaching. She set up a seal, sealed the palace, and reinforced it every day. In this way, 8 years passed, and Konoha was 26 years old. All the unhappy memories in the world will be erased by time, but the kingdom of Laolan still stands in the yellow sand. People have long forgotten the scene of that day, but the Queen is still waiting in front of the palace. 8 years. It's actually been 8 years. The Queen's voice was much weaker than before. Time took away her looks and wrinkles appeared on her face. Mom, you are here again. A beautiful voice sounded from behind. 8 years have passed, and the once lovely little girl has grown into a young girl, her face filled with happiness. Little did she know that her fate had already shifted and changed without her noticing. If it weren't for Kid Hoshino, the current Queen would have filled the seal with her life long ago, and she would have grown up in loneliness. Sarah, I just happened to pass by here. The Queen looked down guiltily and said with a lack of confidence. HMPH, Sarah snorted and said helplessly, Mom, this is the 123rd time you have said this. Can you change the way you say it? A trace of embarrassment flashed across the Queen's face, but she quickly adjusted herself. Ahem, I'll change it next time. Sarah Half Moon looked at the Queen. Is this what I meant? 8 years have passed since Feng Zingai went in, and a lot of things have changed. The Queen whispered to herself, but Sarah still heard it, and she said with a smile, but isn't the dragon vein becoming more stable day by day? Laolan Kingdom is very safe now. As the daughter of the Queen of Laolan, she has been learning the inherited secret skills since she was a child to prepare for taking over as Queen. The Queen shook her head and laughed, tapping her little nose. That's not what I meant. What does that mean? Sarah asked curiously. The Queen sighed and said quietly, many years have passed since the first war. The strength of the 5 great nations has recovered, and the situation has become unclear again. Before she could finish, Sarah interrupted and said, but what does this have to do with Laolan? We never participate in wars, do we? Because only the Queen of Laolan can control the dragon vein, no country will attack it, making it a natural amulet. But the Queen did not become complacent about this. She saw things more clearly and understood more than her daughter. Konoha is now ruled by the second Hokage, not the third Hokage. It is reasonable for people to look down on it. Other countries have been constantly testing it recently. When the Queen said this, her head began to ache and a flash of fatigue flashed across her eyes. Oh, Mom, let them fight as they please. We just need to stay in peace in this corner. Sarah still looked indifferent. You still have a lot to learn. The Queen shook her head and said only this. Sarah pouted unconvincedly, feeling that her mother was looking down on her. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, the ground began to shake, and the Queen immediately looked towards the direction of the palace. Could it be? Before she could guess, a powerful impact came from the depths of the underground palace. The seal set by the Queen was as fragile as paper. It was easily shattered. Sarah, seeing the shock wave coming, the Queen immediately stood in front of Sarah and used her body to block it. The expected impact did not come. Sarah opened her eyes and was stunned. The dusty memories came like a tide, and that figure triggered the memories in my mind, and I shouted subconsciously, Big brother. After she finished speaking, she realized what she had just said. Her face turned slightly red and she felt quite shy. Oh, you are little Sarah? You're so big now." Hoshino Fen clapped his hands, turned around and saw a young girl. Although she has grown up, you can still tell that she looked like the little girl she was back then at this time, the queen said in surprise. The dragon vein has calmed down. Hearing this, Zingai Feng nodded and said, "Not only that, I also added a layer of insurance for it, so the dragon vein will be more stable in the future. By the way, this is the key to the seal, remember not to lose it." A small clock condensed in Feng Zingai's hand and he gave it to Sarah instead of the queen. Sarah took the watch with a blushing face and wanted to say something but was interrupted by the queen. "Well, Sarah, you go back first." Sarah was dumbfounded and a little at a loss. The queen glared at her. Under the influence of her mother's majesty, Sarah stuck out her tongue, turned and ran away. Then, the queen said with a half smile, "What do you mean, Lord Hoshino? My daughter is still young?" The corner of Hoshino Kaede's mouth twitched, as if she seemed to have misunderstood something. Seeing the queen's increasingly dangerous gaze, Zingai Feng shook his head and laughed. "The queen seems to have misunderstood something." The queen turned her head away. She knew clearly that her daughter was just jealous. After only meeting her a few times, her daughter blushed. What if they were together for a while? She didn't even dare to think about it. "Okay." Zingai Feng read something from her eyes, shrugged and said, "Mission completed, I'll leave first." Hoshino Kaede said goodbye, and the queen frowned and said after deep thought, "In the 8 years since you were away, Konoha has changed a lot." 8 years? Is it that long? Zingai Feng muttered about how long it had been. Then, after hearing the last sentence, he asked, "What has changed?" "The current Hokage is not the second generation, but the third generation." Hoshino Kaede's pupils shrank, but then returned to normal. The change was indeed big, but it seemed reasonable to Birima has been in power for so many years. It is indeed time for him to take a break and give way to the younger generation of Konoha. Thinking of this, Zingai Feng's nervous heart suddenly relaxed. Chapter 77 Hidden Dangers Behind Prosperity. Seeing that Zingai Feng's eyes suddenly changed and then returned to normal, the queen wanted to say something but stopped, thinking that Zingai Feng might have misunderstood something before she could explain. Zingai Feng said, "We have been in Laolin for so long, it's time to go back." Then, Zingai Feng lightly tapped his fingertips, and the space in front of him suddenly shattered like a spider web, revealing a dark blue vortex. Seeing the space getting bigger and bigger, the queen on the side widened her eyes with a look of disbelief. "Gonna." After saying that, Feng Zingai slowly walked forward and entered the dark blue vortex. After Zingai Feng left, the queen remained standing there, not coming to her senses for a long time. Outside an open space outside Konoha village, the sunlight fell through the mottled leaves, and the rabbit eating the grass suddenly stood up. Its two long ears stood up, as if it sensed something. The next moment, it exerted force with its legs and quickly ran into the grass, disappearing. After a while, ripples appeared on the open ground, like the surface of water, and then the space made a creaking sound as if it could not bear the weight. It didn't last for more than a few seconds before it shattered into pieces. Then a figure stepped out. It was Zingai Feng. 8 years is indeed a long time. "I'm finally back," Hoshino Feng sighed as he looked at Konoha not far away. "I don't know who the third generation is now. It should still be Hirozen," he guessed. "I don't know what happened to the others." 8 years away from the village was just a short time for him, but for others, it was a long time. Thinking of this, Hoshino Kaede strode towards Konoha. "Alice, I heard that Konoha's business taxes are going to increase again. The money earned from each trip is getting less and less. How can we survive?" On the way, Zingai Feng heard people from a nearby caravan complaining, and their words made him frown. It seems that Konoha's commercial taxes have become unaffordable for the caravan, but this is impossible. He and Birima had a heated discussion, and the tax could not be too low or too high. Finally, a commercial tax was formulated that was suitable for both parties. Logically speaking, it is impossible to change it, because the first time of something is very important. When people are used to it, changing it will cause disgust among many people. This is even more true for commercial taxes. Normally, reasonable commercial taxes will stimulate the enthusiasm of businessmen, but if they are changed, it will lead to disaster. Hoshino Feng could no longer sit still. He looked at Konoha in front of him with deep eyes, and murderous intent flowed in his eyes. There must be something wrong. It must be. There's nothing we can do. We are not good at talking, and we can't beat them. We can only swallow our anger. Yes, after all, Konoha is the largest village in the ninja world, occupying a large area of fertile land. It seems that this is not an isolated case. One person's complaint has attracted the echo of a large group of people. which already says a lot. Zingai Feng took a deep breath and temporarily suppressed his murderous intent, at least to figure out what was going on. Master Ninja, why has the entrance fee to the village increased again? It wasn't this much last time. The caravan leader suppressed his anger and argued with the ninja guarding the gate, but the ninja didn't explain. He just said impatiently, "Give it to me or not, you can't enter if you don't." The situation was more important than the people, so the caravan had no choice but to give in. After all, the village entry fee was a small matter, but if the caravan was delayed, the loss would be huge. The farce ended just like that, and the people around looked calm, as if they were used to it. Only an elderly man could not help but sigh and said, "Alice, the world is going downhill, old man. Do you know why this is happening?" A gentle voice came from beside the old man. At some point, Zingai Feng left the team and came to the old man. You are." The old man just glanced casually at first, but this one glance attracted his entire attention, and then he became extremely excited, as if he had seen a god. "Lord Hoshino?" the old man said with his eyes wide open and his lips moving. Feng Zingai scratched his head. It was not surprising that he recognized him. After all, the old man had lived long and had seen his portrait. "Can you tell me what happened in Konoha?" Hoshino Kaede asked again. At this time, the old man recovered, calmed down and said slowly, "Since the third generation came to power, it was relatively stable at first, but for some reason, the business tax suddenly increased. The caravans had to swallow their taxes due to Konoha's majesty. We thought that was the end of it, but it became more and more excessive, with all kinds of taxes coming one after another. In the end, the old man couldn't help but shake his head. Even entering the village is charged." After listening to the old man's story, Zingai Feng's face remained calm, but the air pressure around him suddenly dropped. He slowly raised his head and looked calmly towards the tallest building in Konoha. His eyes were like sharp swords, piercing through everything and pointing directly at the person sitting in the Hokage's seat. "My words are insignificant and I can't change anything. I can only go with the flow. But I know that if this continues, it will be fine in the short term, but it will eventually become a hidden danger." The old man has lived a long life, and his vision has been honed over the years, so every word he says is true. Buried beneath Konoha's heavy commercial taxes is a dormant volcano. Once it breaks out, Konoha's years of prosperity will be reduced to ashes. "Don't worry, nothing will happen." "Absolutely not," Zingai Feng said solemnly. That's good, the old man smiled from the bottom of his heart. He knew that Zingai Feng would definitely do it after paying the full fee. Feng Zingai stepped into the familiar yet unfamiliar land again. After 8 years, people came and went. Shouts could be heard from time to time, and Feng Hoshino felt every change in Konoha with his heart. Walking on the street, I saw the humble looks on the vendors' faces, their respect for the ninjas, and the onlookers' hesitation to speak. Children gathered in groups of 2 or 3. When faced with the ninjas, they suddenly became quiet and walked forward with their heads down. After the ninjas left, they started laughing again. But no matter how Zingai Feng saw this, he felt heartbroken. "Tobirama, your prophecy has come true." When seeing more and more changes, Hoshino Kaede's heart sank to the bottom. If Tobirama were still alive, these things would never happen to the villagers and merchants of Konoha. The scenes before him made him realize one fact: the second Hokage had passed away. To pursue quick success and instant benefits without regard for the cost of economic development is like a castle in the air, which is extremely fragile. Zingai Feng muttered to himself with a heavy face. Looking at Konoha, an idea suddenly came to his mind. If he had not gone to Laolin, none of this would have happened. Unfortunately, time never goes back, it only moves forward. Konoha is developing too fast. It's easy to get overwhelmed. Have you been blinded by the immediate benefits? Can't you see the road clearly anymore? Hoshino Kaede silently looked towards the Hokage building and walked towards it. What on earth is Hirozen thinking? Is he really the one who is in control of the situation? Is he addicted to the prosperous scene? Full of doubts, Feng Hoshino could not help but quicken his pace, hoping to get answers from the third Hokage. Chapter 78. The third Hokage Danzo? Temporary. Hoshino Kaede did not hide, but swaggered into the Hokage building. Such a posture quickly attracted the attention of the ninjas in the building. A newly promoted Chunin frowned and was about to go over to persuade them, but just as he took a step, he was stopped by a senior Jonin. "Senior, why are you stopping me? There's obviously something wrong with this guy," said the Chunin indignantly. Seeing this, the Jonin smiled slightly and said meaningfully, "Even if that person has questions, it is not your turn to ask. Even I don't have the qualifications. You should just stay here. Konoha is about to change, Upon hearing this, the young Chunin's eyes widened immediately, and he shrank his head and looked at Zingifeng cautiously, saying, "Senior, is that person of high status? It's not his fault. A Jonin is already the backbone of a village, with a lot of say and power. But even so, the Jonin in front of him feels inferior to him. Only someone at a higher level could make him behave like this." "Higher? In a sense, except for that person, there is no one in the entire Konoha with a higher status than him," the Jonin said meaningfully. His words made the young man swallow his saliva. He was so shocked that he couldn't say a word. Zingifeng came with great momentum, obviously looking for trouble, but no one tried to stop him along the way and he was able to go forward unhindered. Arriving at the Hokage's office, Kid Hoshino took a deep breath and pushed the door open. "Who let you in?" "There's not even a door." The table was still the same table, but the person had changed, so much so that Zingifeng was so shocked that he was speechless and stood there in a daze, motionless. Danzo was handling government affairs when his ears suddenly moved, noticing someone coming in without knocking on the door. Thinking it was someone who was not understanding, he looked up and started to scold them, but his pupils suddenly shrank halfway through his words. "Hoshino Kaede," Danzo said blankly, with many emotions showing on his face, but there was no joy or happiness. "It turns out, it's you who became the Hokage, Danzo." Hoshino Kaede breathed a sigh of relief and looked at Danzo with a hint of disbelief in his eyes. After a brief moment of distraction, Danzo finally came to his senses and his face returned to calm. "It's me. Are you surprised? Do you think Hiruzen is more suitable than me?" Hoshino Kaede nodded in acknowledgement. "Indeed, from what we have seen over the years, Hiruzen is more suitable than you." Why? Tell me why." Danzo suddenly became furious and slammed the table hard. Cracks immediately appeared on the table. With a questioning look in his eyes, Zingifeng was silent and did not answer. Although he thought so, the facts were more important than anything else. The one sitting in the position of Hokage now is Danzo Shimura. "Where is Tobirama?" Hoshino Kaede suddenly asked. Speaking of Tobirama, Danzo's anger gradually subsided, and he said calmly, 4 years after you left, the teacher died of illness. "So, Tobirama recognizes you." A hint of surprise flashed in Hoshino Kaede's eyes. Danzo shook his head slowly and said, "Sensei hasn't designated anyone yet. The position of Hokage is now vacant." Zingifeng's pupils shrank, and then he smiled bitterly. "I understand, people outside believe that the current Hokage is the third Hokage, but in reality he is only in temporary office before his death. Tobirama did not designate a successor, but left the position of Hokage vacant, probably to pave the way for Hoshino Kaede. He left this position to Hoshino Kaede and did not give it to his disciples, nor even to Hiruzen and Danzo, whom he recognized. They were only given the power to take over temporarily, and it was clearly stated in all the major families that even if they wanted to take over, they would not have the right to do so. Danzo said with a complicated look in his eyes, "I have worked so hard for so long, but in the end I still didn't get what I wanted, so, you start to take revenge." Zingifeng heard resentment in his words. "No." Unexpectedly, Danzo shook his head and denied it. "I think you know about the business tax." Hoshino Kaede nodded, and Danzo continued, "We have no choice but to do this. Konoha is developing too fast, and many places need funds. When Tobirama Sensei was here, the funds were barely enough to maintain it, but when the teacher passed away, it collapsed in an instant." Zingifeng touched his chin, thought deeply, and finally lowered his head and sighed. "Everything has two sides, yin and yang, good and evil. In the past decade or so, Konoha has developed faster than a rocket. It's like a wild horse that has broken free from its reins. Even if its speed has jumped to a higher level, it's not easy to stop. The interests and hidden dangers were not balanced properly, making Konoha appear prosperous but actually precarious. Even now, we have to increase commercial taxes to make up for the shortfall in funds." Zingifeng just felt dizzy and exhausted, and complained in his heart, "That's not right. This is different from the Naruto I watched. Konoha has never been like this before. Is there a difference between reality and fantasy? But the difference is too big. If we are not careful, Konoha will probably fall apart and people will lose their morale. Everything else is fine, but you can't let go of your heart, because money can be earned again, but a broken heart is hard to recover." Tobirama, did you hand over the third Hokage to me because of this?" With Tobirama's political wisdom and vision, he must have seen this, but it was too late when he discovered it. He could only ensure that the reins of Konoha's wild horse were still in his hands, and he could restrain it. As for the rest, Tobirama was powerless and could only leave it to Hoshino Kaede. Thinking of this, Hoshino Kaede sighed deeply and said, "Danzo, I think you know very well that neither you nor Hiruzen are capable of solving the current hidden dangers in Konoha. It's not that you don't have the ability, but now we need not only ability, but also strength. With your and Hiruzen's strength, I guess you can't control this situation now. Those ninjas with ulterior motives won't listen to you. Hoshino Kaede hit the nail on the head and pointed out the factor that Konoha urgently needs right now, which is strength. Both of them are indeed very strong, but not enough to convince others. Another point is their status. On the one hand, they were all from the ninja clan, and to the common people, they were no different from those who oppressed them. On the other hand, in the eyes of the ninja clan, the two are just juniors and have no right to make decisions. All these factors add up to their current situation of being restricted. All these analyses made Danzo look depressed, like a deflated balloon. He knew all of this, and they could empathize with Tobira's powerlessness at the beginning. Seeing this, Zingai Feng smiled, stepped forward and patted him on the shoulder. Are you losing your spirit? This is not the Danzo I know. Danzo raised his head and looked at his calm expression. He suddenly sighed inwardly. He was able to remain calm when Konoha was in such a crisis. From this point of view, he had lost. No wonder Sensei Tobirama went against everyone's opinion and kept the position of the third Hokage vacant. He must have anticipated the current situation. Chapter 79 Returning Home, Accident. Where is Hiruzen? Hoshino Kaede thought of another person. Danzo said, he is in the Anbu. Tobirama Sensei asked him to take over the Anbu. Hearing this, Hoshino Kaede was amused. It was actually the opposite. Originally, this kind of thing was done by Danzo. Perhaps Tobirama saw Hiruzen's inner hesitation and sent him to the Anbu for training. The same goes for Danzo. He is too murderous and will do anything to achieve his goals. It seems that since Tobirama survived, he has seen more things and has a deeper understanding of the two people. Tell Hiruzen to spread the news that I'm back, the sooner the better. Hoshino Kaede curled the corners of his mouth and smiled. Danzo was stunned when he heard this, but he quickly reacted. He immediately waved his hand, called an Anbu, and asked him to pass on the message. What are you going to do? Right now Konoha is like a powder keg. Danzo made a tactful analogy. Zingai Feng shook his head decisively and spread his hands. No idea, just wait, I have to go back home first. I haven't been back for so long, I miss them so much. Danzo saw him simply shaking his head, with a look of astonishment in his eyes. Is that all? Zingai Feng opened his innocent eyes and blinked twice. What else? This is an extremely urgent matter for me. Danzo only felt his fists harden and he was ready to move, but looking at his expression that said, what can you do to me? I couldn't help feeling tired. Reviewing documents was tiring enough, and now there was this unlucky thing in front of him. Danzo really wanted to punch him in the face. Without waiting for Danzo to say anything else, Hoshino Kaede strode out of the office, leaving behind a few words before leaving. You've worked hard over the years, and leave the rest to me. I'll help you vent the grievances you two have suffered, and then, he disappeared. After listening to this, Danzo shook his head and sat back, with the corners of his mouth slightly raised, and his depressed mood dissipated a little. It's not like Biding has been doing this for all these years. Even though Danzo always takes the blame, he is also a human being with feelings. It would be a lie to say that he didn't want to take revenge after harboring resentment for so long. Hoshino Kaede's words hit the nail on the head. Tobirama once talked to them about Hoshino Kaede, and the point he emphasized was that he valued feelings. Therefore, he believed what Zingai Feng said without a doubt, and those people were in trouble. After leaving the office, Zingai Feng went straight to his parents' home. He hadn't seen them for 8 years. If he didn't go back, they would probably not recognize him anymore. I arrived at the door of my house with familiarity, and before I even went in, I saw a small figure. Hoshino Kaede. He opened his mouth slightly, rubbed his eyes vigorously, and repeated to himself several times, demons and ghosts, please go away. He really couldn't believe it. Who are you and why are you standing outside my door? The little guy had sharp eyes and quickly looked at Zingai Feng, then trotted over and asked in a childish voice. Zingai Feng came back to his senses and looked at him carefully. Well, she is not as good looking as him, but her eyes are big, black, and quite lively. Looking at Zingai Feng in silence and scanning him with a scrutinizing gaze. The little guy put his hands on his hips, stared with his big eyes, and said in a very imposing manner, don't look at it, or I'll call someone. Zingai Feng became interested and wanted to tease him. Oh? Call someone? Then go ahead and call. I bet your parents won't side with you. After saying that, he pinched her chubby face provocatively. Wow, the feel of this. No wonder my mom always pinched her face when she was a child. Who wouldn't love such a soft, elastic and tender face? Zingai Feng was quick-witted and quick-handed, and the little guy's face was pinched before he could react. Then he immediately bared his little fangs and took a few steps back. Bad guy. After saying this, Zingai Feng thought he would take action, but unexpectedly he went straight home to ask for help. "Oh, you're not easy to tease, but it doesn't matter, brother, I will love you well." Judging from this appearance, Xing Gaifeng knew that this was the result of his parents' hard work during the 8 years when he was away. "Mom, there's a weirdo outside and he won't leave." The little guy's voice was very loud. Xing Gaifeng was very confused about this. How could he tell that he was a weirdo? Sakura Kinomoto walked out of the house. She thought it was just a kid playing around, but when she looked up, she was stunned seeing this. Hoshino Kaede smiled brightly and waved. You're back." Sakura Kinomoto tried her best to hide her excitement. "Yeah, I'm back." Xing Gaifeng walked over to her side and said softly. The little guy looked at his mother on the left, looked at Xing Gaifeng on the right, then tugged at the corner of Kinomoto Sakura's clothes and said, "Mom, who is he?" The little guy is very good at observing people's expressions. At least his IQ is online. He realized something was wrong when he saw the expressions of the two people. Kinomoto Sakura finally reacted and looked at Hoshino Teru and said, "This is your brother. His name is Hoshino Teru." The little guy was immediately dumbfounded. This meant that the person in front of him was his brother whom he hadn't seen for a long time. Xing Gaifeng touched his head. "Wei? Good meaning. When did you come back?" asked Sakura Kinomoto. "Just now, I went to the Hokage building." Hoshino Fen kept teasing his younger brother, which made Hoshino Teru look disgusted hearing this. Sakura Kinomoto sighed and said, "You already know everything about Konoha?" Xing Gaifeng nodded. "I have a general idea, but I still need to look into some details." "It's okay. I'm glad you're back." Sakura Kinomoto stopped there and didn't say much, but her meaning was very clear. Although he has retired from the ninja ranks, there is still an elite Jonin working in the family with a wide range of sources of information. Konoha knows about all the changes, but can't change anything. Zio Feng, a voice of surprise sounded behind everyone. Xing Gaiwei's eyes lit up, and he immediately rushed out and threw himself into his arms. "Dad." Feng Xingga greeted with a smile. The long-awaited reunion made him smile with joy. Yang Tai looked at him and said with emotion, "You are getting more and more powerful. I can't tell your depth anymore. It seems that there is no slacking, which is very good." In the past, he could still sense the terrifying power hidden in Hoshino Kaede's body, but now standing in front of him, he was like an ordinary person and couldn't even sense his chakra. "It's not like I've been on vacation in the past few years." Xing Gaifeng raised his eyebrows and said unconvinced, "Haha." Yang Tai didn't argue like he used to. He just smiled. His son was grown up and it was no longer suitable for him. Suddenly, a member of the ambu swish landed in front of the few people, and when he saw Feng Hoshino, he immediately said, "Master Hoshino, Master Ikumi seems to be in trouble." As soon as the words fell, Xing Gaifeng's face suddenly turned gloomy. "What happened?" The Anbu people said. "It seems that the leaders of several small and medium-sized ninja clans are making trouble in front of the Ministry of Commerce, trying to force Ikumi to increase commercial taxes." Upon hearing this, a tremendous momentum burst out from Xing Gaifeng's body, which he controlled with extreme precision and disappeared in just a moment. But the Anbu was sweating profusely and gasping for breath. With an extremely terrified look behind the mask, Is this the strength of Master Hoshino?" Xing Gaifeng said in a cold voice, and the temperature around him could not help but drop sharply. "I want to see if those people's arrogance is lawless." After saying that, he let the Anbu lead the way and went straight to the scene. Chapter 80, A Small Punishment and a Big Warning. "I'll take your time. Lord Ikumi, we are doing this for the good of Konoha. You see, Konoha's economy is saturated recently, and we really don't have any extra money to develop." An elderly ninja clan leader advised earnestly. "I hope to persuade Izuo Ikumi to give in by using reason and emotion. After all, she has the final say in the Ministry of Commerce." Now the ninja clans have a say in many places in Konoha, but the Ministry of Commerce is an exception. It was not just because of the presence of Kaede Hoshino that intimidated them, but also because of Izuo Ikumi's personal strength. She refused to give in, and even the top management did not look at her favorably. Izuo Ikumi sat in her seat, turning a deaf ear, as if she didn't hear anything and concentrating on her own things. Seeing that she was unmoved, another clan leader sneered and said, "Why are you pretending? If you didn't have a relationship with the first-generation disciples, you would still want to stop us from doing things. Dream on, it's over, it's over." Someone shook his head pretentiously, but the mockery in his eyes was evident. They are just the patriarchs of a small family, so their status is naturally not as high as that of the head of a department, but it is nice to enjoy the shade under a big tree with the support of Hyuga and the bully's power. Many people dare not speak out, but they are smart enough to know when to stop and they can judge the scale well. "Ikumi, I am a few years older than you. I have been through all these years in Konoha and have experience. You are still young and may not be able to see the situation clearly. We are all doing this for the good of Konoha. Some of them had a black face, and some had a red face, and they cooperated very skillfully. Are you done? Aizawa Akumi raised her head and said calmly. Several people were stunned, and an ominous feeling suddenly arose. The next moment, Aizawa Akumi stood up and sneered. Her eyes were sharp, and a murderous intent spread out. She had participated in the First Ninja World War and killed quite a few enemies. The people in front of him were all old, their energy and blood were declining, and they had lost their spirit, so they naturally felt fearful. What are you going to do? This is Konoha? Do you want to fight? The leader shouted, trying to use his strength to intimidate others. Aizawa Akumi sneered and approached them step by step. Her momentum gradually increased, giving people a feeling of a mountain approaching. Take action? I'm afraid you'll dirty my hands. A bunch of old guys who are just sitting in their positions doing nothing. Aizawa Akumi was cursing the people in front of her and the people behind them. Suddenly, several people showed anger on their faces turned red, and their bodies trembled as if they were about to pass out. Aizawa Akumi ignored him and even added fuel to the fire. Calling you trash is an insult to trash, and you still have the nerve to come here. You are such a shameless guy. Puff. One of them couldn't bear the burden. Blood spurted out of his mouth, and his body fell to the ground like a piece of paper. Seeing this, Aizawa Akumi just smiled, with a hint of satisfaction in her eyes. You bastard. You have no respect for your elders and are lawless. The old people were extremely angry and scolded her. Aizawa Akumi gathered up enough strength to directly confront him. I don't respect my elders? You guys are asking me to respect you. You are a bunch of people who suck blood in Konoha. You are so shameless to bark here. I'm going to say this today. The business tax has been increasing again and again, which has caused dissatisfaction among most businessmen. I will definitely not increase it any further. As long as I'm here, the price won't go up. Even if someone behind the scenes comes, I'll keep saying this. Aizawa Akumi knew in her heart that the people in front of her were just pawns and minor characters. Because she was afraid that her reputation would be damaged, she encouraged others to come. Just because of this, Aizawa Akumi looked down on the person behind the scenes. Everyone was speechless and couldn't say anything. Well said. The loud voice startled Aizawa Akumi. He was very familiar with this voice. With his eyes looking far away, Zingai Feng took a big step forward and arrived in front of him in a few steps. Zingai Feng. Why are you back? When they saw Zingai Feng, they suddenly looked flustered. I wonder if he heard everything I said just now, Aizawa Akumi said in surprise. You are finally back. Then she looked at him with resentment. If you don't come back, I won't be able to bear it. Zingai Feng smiled and said, isn't it just in time that I came back? I can still see something like this. The words were addressed to Aizawa Akumi, but the cold gaze was always fixed on them. Since you're back, you can handle this matter. It will give me some time to relax. Aizawa Akumi looked at the trembling people with a smile, and her mood immediately improved. Master, Lord Hoshino? They called tremblingly. Zingai Feng glanced at them one by one, and a heavy pressure instantly fell on their shoulders. Oh, you guys are so nice. Zingai Feng gritted his teeth. Anyone could see that he was furious at the moment the patriarchs of several small families actually dared to challenge the minister. What is this? Reverse Sharingan. Lord Hoshino, please listen to our explanation. Everyone was sweating profusely, their voices trembling, and their faces showed fear and regret. If they had known that Zingai Feng was back, they would not have dared to do this even if they had 10,000 guts. What they said just now must have been heard, and the obvious murderous intent made their hearts rise to their throats. Explain. Haha, there's no need for that. I've already said it, so there's no point in taking it back. Zingai Feng looked at them with a smile, and that expression made them turn pale, as if they had seen a ghost. You are so brave. You are so brave even at your age. Do you really think Konoha is owned by your family? When you are old, you should stay at home and enjoy your retirement. Why do you have to come out and cause trouble for others? The voice was icy cold, dozens of degrees lower than the temperature in the cold winter of December. When they heard this, their legs went weak and they unconsciously sat down on the ground. His eyes were lifeless, as if his soul had left his body. Zingai Feng didn't think that it would be enough to just give up the verbal blow. Some people only remember the food and not the beating. If they are not given a painful lesson, they will not change. The time fluctuations spread out, and the world spun in an instant. An illusory big hand stretched out from behind Zingai Feng. It went straight through the chests of several people and pulled hard. A ball of energy invisible to the naked eye was held in his hand and transformed into small clocks. Hoshino Kaede waved his hand and the scenery returned to normal. Looking at them again, their faces looked even older, with obvious wrinkles. Their vitality was declining, and they had lost a lot of their energy. I don't like the sight of blood recently, so I'll spare your lives. I'll take your time. Xingai Feng smiled lightly. The smile was like a devil to them. No, it was scarier than a devil. Which devil could take away a person's time? Several people were in a state of despair, their bodies shaky. Xingai Feng shook his head and said to Aizawa Akumi, "Send them back and let the others see what happens to them." Upon hearing this, Aizawa Akumi showed pity for a few seconds, then nodded and asked someone to do it. Chapter 81, Killing the Chicken to Scare the Monkey. Demonstration. After showing off her power, Aizawa Akumi said jokingly, "Now that you're back, those people must be scared to death, scared out of their wits." Humph. It's not that simple. They won't give in until they get to the Yellow River. Driven by their own interests, they won't give in easily. Xingai Feng snorted coldly and shook his head. Aizawa Akumi was open-minded and smiled. No matter how stubborn you are, they can't beat you. It's only a matter of time, maybe. I hope they know what's happening. Xingai Feng rubbed his brow. There are a lot of Konoha borers. I don't have the time to deal with them one by one. Do you know who is behind them? Asked Feng Xingai at this time. Upon hearing this, Aizawa Akumi said, "I only know a little. She is not a pushover. She has her own people over the years and some rumors cannot be avoided by her. That's enough to make an example of them." Hoshino Kaede waved his hand. He couldn't catch them all at once, as that would hurt Konoha's manpower too much. This is not a good idea and will only hurt yourself. Indeed. Then, Aizawa Akumi mentioned some of the families behind them. Xingai Feng's eyes flickered. And when he heard the name of one of the families, he sneered. "Oh, profit can be very tempting. I thought that big families had good vision and would not be greedy. I didn't expect that." Aizawa Akumi understands this clearly. When the benefits reach 200%, even brothers can be killed. You're right. Xingai Feng's eyes flashed with surprise. Of course, you've improved your skills and can even say such things now. Of course. Aizawa Akumi rolled her eyes at him. After all, you've been training for so many years, it would be strange if you didn't make any progress. Yes, yes, yes. Xingai Feng smiled helplessly. Even as the two were chatting and laughing, things were turbulent and undercurrents were surging in the dark corners of Konoha due to the fate of Sarutobi Hiruzen's Enbu. The news of Hoshino Kaede's return to the village spread instantly at one time. All the families issued orders at the same time, restraining their members and not causing trouble. When Sarutobi Hiruzen received the news, a happy smile appeared on his face. It is still Xia Feng who can calm the situation. When Feng Xingai returned, the ones who were most worried were the families that were trying to profit from its Sungay tribe. Hinata Sheng is now 33 years old, more stable than when he was young, and has taken over the position of clan leader. He already had two sons, who would later be called Hyuga Hayashi and Hyuga Hayashi. During the meeting, all the clan leaders and family elders were present. After everyone sat down, no one spoke to break the silence. Hinata Sheng sighed and looked at the third elder. "Third elder, are you still going to keep silent? If Lord Hoshino really finds out, I'm afraid things won't be simple." After he finished speaking, everyone's eyes turned to him with ambiguous expressions. HMPH. "I don't know what the clan leader is talking about," the third elder said stubbornly with a gloomy face. The second elder snorted coldly, staring at him sharply. "Do you really want to make things worse? Xingai Feng is not a good person. Once you take the opportunity to suppress Hinata, we will have no way to stop you. Do you want Hinata to be lonely?" At the end of his speech, the second elder almost roared. His righteous look made the third elder furious, and he spoke with his neck stiff. "Don't talk so high-soundingly. You all know what I did, but no one stopped me, except the clan leader. Didn't you all gain huge benefits? Now that something's happened, you're just shrinking your necks, pushing me out, and getting away with it. That's wishful thinking." The third elder's words caused everyone's expressions to change several times, each with its own merits. Only Hinata Sheng and the great elder sat on the high platform, looking as if it had nothing to do with them. The Hyuga clan leader does not have the final say. The other elders each have their own responsibilities. After the death of the previous patriarch, the power of the elders gradually increased, and the patriarch's say naturally became much less. Except for the great elder who lived longer, the other elders were replaced. In comparison, the great elder had more power. Seeing that everyone was arguing fiercely, the great elder coughed lightly, and the scene became quiet in an instant. Seeing this, the great elder nodded, then looked at everyone and said, With the return of Hoshino Kaede, the power structure of Konoha will change drastically. Hinata is dependent on Konoha after all, so we can't make things too awkward. Hinata Sheng asked, what does the Great Elder mean? Return everything you have swallowed over the years. The elder spoke slowly, but without any doubt. Hearing this, the third elder became anxious. Great Elder, the boss looked stern, intimidating. Without even getting angry, the third elder lowered his head and said unwillingly. No buts. The Great Elder waved his hand and made a decision, but then added, my lineage will help you with a portion of the cost. Hinata Sheng looked at the Great Elder in surprise. This was not a small number. Seeing everyone's surprised expressions, the Great Elder smiled and said, if Hinata is gone, what use is money? As soon as these words were spoken, everyone was filled with admiration. After hearing this, Hinata Sheng immediately said, as the clan leader, I have no choice but to contribute as well. The Great Elder stroked his beard, a gleam of light flashed in his eyes, and he smiled without saying a word. The rest of the people looked at each other, all with confused expressions. The Great Elder saw all of this and couldn't help but sigh inwardly. The future of the Zhuang family is uncertain. Suddenly, there was a knock on the closed door. Dong dong dong. Then a childish voice sounded, Father, can I come in? Hinata Sheng frowned, with a look of dissatisfaction on his face, and was about to yell at him, but he was interrupted by the Great Elder, who said with a smile to the outside of the door, come in, Rizu. After saying that, the door was pushed open and Hinata Hayashi saw his father's dissatisfied expression at a glance. My dear father, Zio Rizu bowed politely, and then bowed to all the elders of the clan. Although still young, his manners and behavior reveal aristocratic demeanor. Rizu, what's the matter? The elder said with a smile. This is the exact opposite of the stern-faced Hinata Mori. Hayashi lowered his head, not daring to look at Hinata Mori, and explained his purpose in a low voice. It's about Master Hoshino? Oh? Tell me in detail. The Great Elder exchanged glances with a few people and said, not long ago, the Ministry of Commerce brought forward several people, all of whom were heads of small families close to Hinata, but his complexion was listless and his face looked older, giving people the feeling that he was very old. Hayashi glanced at Hinata Mori secretly, and when he saw him nod slightly, he briefly described the general process. Several people looked at each other, and for a moment you could hear a pin drop. Rizu was very tactful and didn't say anything. He just stood there obediently without moving. After a long while, the Great Elder slowly said, he is demonstrating, doing it for those who have ulterior motives to see. While speaking, he looked at the third elder meaningfully. I guess his next step will be to clear away the obstacles with thunderous means. Hinata Mori nodded in agreement. You don't have much time. The Great Elder shook his head and said, hurry up and send it over. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 82, Hyuga apologizes. The storm is coming. Kaede Hoshino's return was like a hurricane, sweeping across the entire Konoha. People with guilty consciences live in constant fear and anxiety, and their days are as miserable as years, and this is exactly the effect that Xingai Feng wants. Only the fear of the unknown can shake people's hearts. Just like that, 3 days passed, and Feng Xingai did not make any movement and went back to his normal life. Brother, I'm really tired. Can you let your lovely brother rest for a while? Hoshino Teru blinked his big eyes and looked aggrieved. However, Xingai Feng just glanced at him without saying a word, but his meaning was clear. No, if you don't finish the run, you're not allowed to eat. Xingai Feng slowly stated the consequences of not completing the run. Hoshino Teru pouted but did not dare to refute. After these 3 days, Hoshino Teru finally understood that his brother was truly ruthless and impartial in training and would not slack off at all. Looking at the expression on his brother's face, who wanted to resist but didn't dare to, Xingai Feng shook his head and laughed. According to the time, it's time to come. Xingai Feng muttered to himself towards the door. I've been waiting here since early morning, as if I was expecting guests to arrive today. After a moment, the muttering turned into a smile and he waited quietly. Soon, a steady voice came. Master Hoshino, Hinata Mori is here to visit. The corners of Xingai Feng's mouth curled up, then disappeared. And he pretended to have just woken up and walked forward to open the door. The head of the Hyuga family must have something important to tell you since he came here so early in the morning. Hoshino Kaede rubbed his sleepy eyes and yawned. Hinata Sheng's mouth twitched, and he complained in his heart, don't you know why I'm here? But he looked extremely respectful, even bowing slightly, and said, Please forgive me for disturbing your sweet dream. Seeing this, Hoshino Teru's eyes widen and his mouth opened slightly. Wow, so awesome. The initial resentment disappeared instantly, and his eyes turned into admiration. This is the Hyuga clan, a big clan in Konoha, and even the head of the clan is so respectful. Seeing this, Hoshino Teru silently threw away his lazy thoughts and started practicing hard. I can't afford to offend you, but can I not hide from you? No need to be so polite. I was just talking. Don't take it to heart. Zingai Feng waved his hand magnanimously and invited him in. Yes, Hinata Mori naturally walked down the stairs, and then said, the return of Lord Hoshino is a blessing for Konoha. Hoshino Feng turned around and looked at him with a smile, first positive and then negative. Right, Hinata Sheng was very nervous when he was looked at. He took a deep breath and said through gritted teeth, Hinata knows that I can't hide the matter from you, so I come here to apologize. As he said that, he actually knelt down in front of Zingai Feng. Such decisiveness made Zingai Feng look at him differently. This was definitely not something that had been discussed before. The clan leader also has to save his face. Oh, the ones who caused trouble before don't count. Hinata Mori must have acted on his own initiative. Hoshinoki didn't speak immediately, and Hinata Mori remained in his posture without getting up. The atmosphere was stagnant for a moment. The heavy atmosphere made Hinata Sheng sweat on his forehead. The cold gaze pierced his back, making his whole body cold. After a long while, Zingai Feng said quietly, if admitting mistakes is useful, then what is the point of the security team? Just one sentence doubled the pressure on Hinata Sheng, and he immediately shouted, Hinata, return all the profits. That's all, Hoshino Kaede said expressionlessly, his voice as cold as a machine. The mountain-like pressure was all on Hinata Sheng, making it almost impossible for him to breathe. Seeing this, Hyuga Mori said with difficulty, in addition, within 2 years, 30% of the income of Hyuga industry will be handed over to Konoha. As soon as the words fell, the terrifying pressure dissipated instantly, like a receding tide. Then, Hoshino Kaede seemed like a different person, and helped Hinata Mori up with a smile on his face. Oh, it seems that the Hyuga clan leader is very sensible. Good, good. Hinata Mori forced a smile, but his heart was bleeding. The Hyuga family was able to become a large clan, with its businesses spread across the land of fire. Just like the Senju and Uchiha families, the 30% profit almost caused Hyuga to suffer heavy losses, but he had to do this. Just now, if he hadn't said this, Hinata's position would definitely be in jeopardy in the future. Hoshino Kaede can support other families in minutes. This was unacceptable to Hinata. It's my duty, to contribute to Konoha. Hinata Mori just wanted it to be over quickly and didn't want to stay any longer. Lord Hoshino is busy, so I won't bother you anymore. Seeing this, Zingai Feng knew that it was time to stop, so he let the people leave. After watching Hinata Sheng leave, Hoshino Feng slowly returned to his chair. Xiaohu, I still like the way you act coquettishly. Hoshino Teru immediately ran to his side like a dog and massaged his shoulders and legs. Brother, it's my fault for not understanding me. Please be more tolerant, okay? With a changing expression, Zingai Feng rubbed his head vigorously and said, okay, but there won't be a next time. Upon hearing this, Hoshino Teru immediately nodded firmly. After sending his brother away, Zingai Feng continued to sit on the chair for the entire day. At nightfall, Zingai Feng looked at the empty door and shook his head. Alice, you are just relying on luck. If the tiger doesn't show its might, people will think I am easy to bully. There was a fierce light in Zingai Feng's eyes, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly. If you don't want the face I give you, then don't blame me for not giving you a chance. The next day, Kaede Hoshino asked Danzo to gather all the clan leaders of Konoha to hold a meeting in the Hokage building. After hearing the news, one sentence came to everyone's mind: the storm has begun. Among them, only Hinata Mori was relieved. Fortunately, he visited in advance and the disaster did not affect Hinata. An hour later, all the Konoha high-level officials arrived. Even Uzumaki Mito was invited by Hoshino Kaede. Everyone, Konoha has been very lively in the past few years since I was away. After looking around, Zingai Feng spoke leisurely, his tone very casual, but everyone present was startled and said the opposite of what they meant. A few days ago, the head of the Hyuga clan came to visit me and we talked a lot, which touched me deeply. This sentence made Hinata Sheng look surprised. Why did he have a role to play? Everyone was worried and lowered their heads, not daring to look him in the face, like cowards hiding in their shells. Seeing that the atmosphere was almost set, Zingai Feng's tone instantly dropped to the bottom, exuding a chill. But what makes me sad is that Konoha has not made much progress in the past few years. It has almost stood still and even slightly regressed. I wonder if you can give me an explanation. When Uzumaki Miro saw that no one dared to speak, the corners of his eyes curved into crescent shapes, and his mood could be seen after Tobirama left. There was no one to take the lead, and the ninja clan, which had been suppressed, began to become arrogant. Konoha was in a state of chaos and the people were living in misery. Even if she wanted to change, she couldn't beat four hands with two fists. Now that Zingai Feng is back, everyone is like quails, which is really gratifying. Chapter 83: A combination of kindness and power. The main theme of silence still echoed among the crowd, and no one dared to speak. Hoshino Feng glanced around and tapped his knuckles on the table, making a clear sound. Are you all mute? Why are you so active when it comes to benefiting the family? The sarcasm covered everyone. As for me, I was born in the first year of Konoha and grew up with Konoha. When my teacher was alive, he asked me to take good care of Konoha and not let those with evil intentions harm Konoha. Zingai Feng's eyes jumped back and forth between the few people with a smile, and his eyes were so cold that people lowered their heads and dared not look directly at him. Who do you think could be that person? Is it an Uchiha? Or a Hyuga? Or maybe someone else? Hinodamori and Uchiha Kitajima both trembled in fear. Danzo and Hirozen felt very happy when they saw these clan leaders who usually showed off their power. All the frustrations from these years were released all at once. Lord Hoshino, seeing that no one spoke, Nara Shikaichi, Konoha's think tank, spoke with a stiff upper lip. Senior Shikaichi, seeing that it was Nara Shikaichi, Hoshino Kaede immediately became friendly. Judging from the existing information, the pig, deer and butterfly tribes are the most peaceful. Nara Shikaichi waved his hands repeatedly, sweat on his forehead. No, Master Hoshino, just call me Shikaichi, I was just kidding. Although the other person was polite and didn't seem to be fake, he couldn't take it seriously. Okay, Zingai Feng didn't force it and said, Lu Yi, do you have anything to say? Nara Shikaichi swallowed and said under pressure, I am to blame for Konoha becoming what it is now. Oh, Zingai Feng supported the table with both hands, and asked with a puzzled look on his face, what does this have to do with Lu Yi? Could it be that the Nara clan is also involved? No. Nara Shikado was shocked and waved his hands quickly. Absolutely not. Then why do you say that? As the leader of the Jonin squad, I have failed in my duty, Nara Shikaichi said with his head down. Zingai Feng narrowed his eyes and said with a smile, it seems that Zulati doesn't intend to protect himself anymore. When Nara Shika heard this, cold sweat broke out on his back and his heart was beating wildly. These words were like adding fuel to the fire for the three tribes. To put it nicely, it's called self-preservation. To put it bluntly, it's just watching the fire from the other side of the river. Without waiting for him to explain, Zingai Feng stood up and looked at them calmly. The current ninja world model has basically taken shape. With the 5 major ninja villages jointly occupying most of the resources, the previous ethnic wars are gone, and it has evolved into a war between villages. If the big tree of Konoha falls, it will not be easy for you families that depend on Konoha. There was a pause of several seconds between words, and the quiet conference room was filled with a sound of disordered breathing. Seeing this, Zingai Feng raised the corner of his mouth and continued, since you don't obey Danzo, then I will be the 3rd generation Hokage. What do you think? His tone was very light, as if he was asking for everyone's opinions, but as soon as he finished speaking, everyone echoed him. I agree, that's right, I support Lord Hoshino to become the 3rd Hokage. If anyone goes against Master Hoshino, I will be angry with him. For a moment, the meeting room was in chaos, and everyone spoke so eagerly. For the first time it seems that if you are a step slower you will be liquidated. Danzo and Hirozen, who saw this scene, were both extremely envious. When the two of them were in charge of Konoha, they were almost in name only, and their orders could not be passed down to the village at all. Now, just by asking, Feng Zingai gained everyone's approval. No wonder Sensei Tobirama insisted on letting Kid Hoshino serve as the 3rd Hokage. With such means and strength, the other two of them are ashamed of themselves. The wind direction suddenly changed. Nara Shikaichi was secretly shocked, but looking at the excited expressions of the crowd, he couldn't help but admire them. The 2nd generation master has a very sharp vision. Zingai Feng let them talk for a while before he pressed his hand lightly, and the voices immediately subsided. Since everyone agrees, then it will be easy. Before, I spoke with my strength, but now, I will speak in the name of Hokage. A cunning look flashed across his eyes, like a sly cat. I hope some people will take the initiative so I don't have to go to each person to talk to them. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's faces froze, and there seemed to be a cracking sound. Seeing their expressions, Zingai Feng's eyes flashed with ferocity and his voice couldn't help but become low. Why? Are you having any trouble? He glanced at them one by one with a kind look, and nodded with satisfaction when he saw that they looked defeated. Since you have no objection, then let's do it this way. Oh, Danzo and Hirozen are in charge of this. I don't want to hear that one was left out. Hoshino Kaede handed the matter over to Danzo. After all, this was his expertise and it also allowed him to vent his anger. It will definitely be done beautifully, Danzo emphasized at the end. Okay, Naruto-1 stays here, and the rest can go home. Remember to hurry up. Hoshino Kaede finally smiled at everyone. A meeting with the attitude of hello, everyone is hello came to an end before leaving. Hirozen and Danzo looked at each other, both grinning, looking extremely happy. They seemed to be a little lightheaded even when they were walking, and it was foreseeable that those people would face some difficulties after everyone left. Naruto was the only one left. He looked calm on the surface, but he was actually very scared. After all, everyone has left and you are the only one left, and what just happened can't be a good thing no matter how you think about it. Lu Yi, Zingai Feng called out, bringing him back to his senses. Lord Hoshino, why do you want me to stay here? Naruto asked boldly. I'm sorry for offending you just now. Please don't mind. Unexpectedly, Zingai Feng apologized to him instead. This frightened Naruto so much that he quickly said, Master Hoshino is doing this for Konoha? Shikaichi doesn't care. I said this, and I really thought so in my heart. Kid Hoshino must have deep feelings for Konoha. What was said to him before was actually a warning to him, and Zulati was indeed negligent in his duties. Hearing this, Hoshino Kaede smiled even more. I'm relieved if you think so. The Nara clan has been providing advice to the village since the founding of Konoha, and has made great contributions. You three tribes are also the most peaceful, saving me a lot of worry. In response to Kid Hoshino's praise, Naruto breathed a sigh of relief. Having said that, Zulati has been removed from the danger list. However, I hope that the Nara clan will always keep their original intentions and not go astray. This is a reminder and a warning. What I mean is, as long as you follow the Hokage closely, nothing will happen to you. If you have second thoughts, of course. Naruto nodded slightly and assured, that's good, Zingai Feng said with a smile. Okay, that's all. You decide the time for the Hokage inauguration ceremony. I understand. Naruto straightened his expression and said seriously. Chapter 84. The Third Hokage. Looking at Naruto's departing figure, Hoshino Kaede couldn't help but chuckle. Then he turned to look at Uzumaki Miro, who had been sitting there without leaving. Master, is there anything else? Uzumaki Miro shook his head and smiled. I haven't seen you for a few years. You have matured a lot. Mature, Zingai Feng muttered to himself. During these 8 years, he traveled in the dragon veins, comprehending the laws of space all day long without stopping for a single day. Who knows how boring it is to practice and how difficult it is to gain enlightenment? No, it's just that I've seen it more and thought about it more, so I'll naturally get it. Thinking of this, Zingai Feng shook his head and said sadly with a hint of fatigue. Uzumaki Miro was startled and looked at his face carefully. Finding that he was less innocent and more stable, she sighed. Thank you for your hard work. You are the one who will clean up this mess in Konoha? Hearing this, Zingai Feng grinned and said, it's not hard. This is where I grew up. How can I just ignore it? Uzumaki Miro nodded and said nothing more. She knew that Hoshino Kaede could know when to stop. He immediately changed the subject and started talking about him. The position of the third Hokage has been vacant for the past few years. Monkey and Danzo have been constrained and have had their own thoughts, but they couldn't stop it in the end. Zingai Feng chuckled. It's normal. Everyone has selfishness. It can't be eliminated. Just let everything go. You're quite open-minded. Uzumaki Miro sighed. I hope both of them can let it go. Hoshino Kaede smiled but said nothing. Half a day later, the news that Hoshino Kaede became the third Hokage swept the streets and alleys. When the older generation heard the news, they all cheered with joy. The younger generation knew very little about it, but soon news spread about Hoshino Kaede, the first Hokage's disciple. He defeated the Rikage, saved the situation from collapse, made the hidden cloud village withdraw its troops and negotiate, founded the Ministry of Commerce, and integrated a chaotic situation. These events instantly made the long silent Konoha boil again. Brother, are you going to be Hokage? After returning home, Hoshino Teru couldn't wait to ask, his little eyes full of excitement. The news spread very quickly, and Zingai Feng was slightly surprised for a moment. It seems like someone fanned the flames. Well, the ceremony will probably be held soon. Hoshino Kaede nodded in acknowledgement. Wow. Upon hearing that, Hoshino Teru immediately jumped up and down, shouting loudly. If you didn't know, you would think he had become Hokage. Zingai Feng shook his head helplessly. His mentality was nothing more than my brother became the Hokage, so from now on I will be the Hokage's younger brother. Unfortunately, this is not an honor, but a burden to him. Words and looks can kill. Excessive expectations can break a person's spine. Brother, at this moment, Hatake Tsukumo appeared in front of the two of them. Brother Tsukumo. When Hoshino Teru saw Hatake Tsukumo, he immediately greeted him, and even his arrogance just now subsided a little. The reason is that when Hoshino Teru was a child, he was trained by Hatake Tsukumo. He was so ruthless and impartial that Hoshino Teru was like a mouse seeing a cat, trembling in the corner. He has had a psychological trauma towards Hatake Tsukumo since childhood. Congratulations, brother, for becoming the third Hokage. Hatake Tsukumo congratulated sincerely. He is now the captain of the Anbu, well informed, and came here as soon as he received the news. Hoshino Kaede glanced at Hoshino Teru, who was shrinking his neck, and said, it seems that the news has spread to Konoha. I guess there will be many more people coming next. Yeah, Hatake Tsukumo nodded. He is the official Sandaime Hokage after all, said Xiao Xiao. Zingai Feng's heart moved, and he looked outside the door, then felt helpless. Did you discuss this? HMPH, it's just a coincidence. Uchiha Wang would not admit it and said with his head turned away. Aizawa Akumi glanced at him and directly exposed his cover-up. What a duplicity guy. He was very nervous just now, wondering if he should bring some gifts. You? Uchiha was furious and glared at him. Aizawa Akumi simply ignored him and didn't even look at him. Seeing this, Zingai Feng couldn't help but hold his forehead helplessly. You two are really a pair of happy enemies. Who is his, her, enemy? The two said in unison. Even their speaking frequency was the same as the two looked at each other. Uchiha Wang's face turned red and he was the first to retreat. Zingai Feng was stunned for a moment, then he showed a meaningful smile and whispered to himself, tisk, I didn't expect it. I didn't expect it? What didn't you expect? Hinata Kazumi tilted her head in confusion. Nothing. Zingai Feng shook his head and didn't intend to expose it. Now was not the right time. His eyes rolled, and then he looked at Fujito Takatora with a smirk, and whispered, Takatora, do you have someone you like? Uchiha's brain worked quickly and he immediately realized that there was something behind what Hoshino Kaede said. His face suddenly turned red and he lowered his presence. No one noticed anything wrong. Fujito Takatora's face turned red instantly and he shook his head repeatedly, only glancing at Kazumi out of the corner of his eye. Hoshino Kaede took a breath, looked at Gohu on the left, and looked at Kazumi on the right. This looks like another couple. Wow, the four of them digested it among themselves. But, it seems like those two were just wishful thinking. It seems that Kazumi and Yumi are unaware that they have been targeted. Zingai Feng's gaze was too scorching, making both of them confused. Aizawa Akumi's mouth twitched and she shouted, what are you looking at? Can the Hokage do whatever he wants? Zingai Feng coughed several times, glanced at Fujito Takatora and Uchiha Nozomi, and said, that's impossible. I'm just thinking about something. Yes, I'm just thinking about something. He had a serious expression on his face, as if it were really like that, but these words still made the two of them suspicious. Fortunately, 3 disciples of Zingai Feng came over and interrupted the weird atmosphere. Teacher, X3. Zingai Feng looked at the 3 people and sighed. Time flies so fast. The 3 little kids have grown up so big. Aren't you talking nonsense? It's been 8 years. How can you not grow up? Yu Guangyi was quick-witted and spoke without thinking. He said whatever he thought. Yu Hishiku and Midori Shishio looked at each other, both helpless. He's so rude when we meet. He's just asking for a beating as expected. Veins bulged on Zingai Feng's forehead, and he immediately punched him on the head. Boom. Hoshino Feng blew his fist, and a huge bag appeared above Moonlight Knight's head. Zioyi, are you feeling itchy? Do you want me to help you loosen it up? Zingai Feng said with a smile. A chill that penetrated into the spine surged from the bottom of Moonlight Knight's heart. He immediately smiled apologetically and tried to please. Humph. Seeing this, Zingai Feng snorted coldly, then looked at them and said, we've already met, let's all go back. Do you have so much free time? After a pause, he looked back to the Moonlit Knight. Don't think I don't know what you are planning. Even if you are a disciple of a Hokage, you can't let your guard down, otherwise, I will let you feel the pain of your childhood again. Moonlight Knight nodded hurriedly like a chicken, and then ran away. Seeing this, the other 2 had no choice but to follow. This brat has a lot of tricks up his sleeve. Feng Zingai said this, but he was not really angry. When one person succeeds, the whole family will benefit. This saying is most appropriate at this time. Chapter 85. Nara and number 039, S questions. The calm lake surface began to ripple, and the news that the third Hokage was keyed Hoshino spread among the ninjas over time in the hidden cloud village. The newly appointed third Hokage had a solemn expression on his face as he looked in the direction of the Fire Country and muttered to himself, "Everything that Yunin has lost will be repaid in kind." As he spoke, powerful chakra burst out from his body, forming a sky-high momentum that caused the surrounding walls to shake and sand and rocks to fly in a flash. It disappeared. The third Kazekage and the third Mizukage were both shocked when they heard this, and felt a great deal of pressure. This is bad news for other countries, but it is a cause for great joy for Konoha and the land of fire, the land of the Nara clan. Narashikachi was worrying about the timing and details of the third Hokage's inauguration. Since that day, his position has changed. He no longer pretends to be deaf and dumb, and wholeheartedly assists Zengai Fen based on their past interactions. He knew the Hokage's temper and character very well. He was a man of his word, and his skills were not much worse than Tobirama's. If we continue to stand idly by, the day of our genocide will not be far away. Oh, this is difficult. Narashikachi sighed secretly. His hair fell all over the floor because of the inauguration ceremony. The inauguration ceremony of each actor is not that simple. It is not just a formality. Speech is also a key step. How to give a speech and how to speak are both very debatable matters. If you mess it up, it will be a huge joke. The content of the speech is of utmost importance to the Hokage, as it reflects Konoha's future policies and goals. Naradir wrote a speech half guessing and half thinking. After pondering for a moment, he felt that it was inappropriate and made some minor changes. This is just a rough draft. The final decision will still need to be made by Feng Zengai. He dare not interfere. Oh, please, I can't slack off anymore. After revising and saving the manuscript, Narashikazu laid his head on the table. His decadent look was very consistent with the temperament of the Nara clan. "Dad, what are you worried about? You look depressed." Zaya Elugiu knelt opposite Lu Ai and asked casually. "My free days are gone," Narashikachi said resentfully. "Oh?" Narashikaku raised his eyelids, and then, nothing more happened. Narashikachi looked at his son speechlessly. Shouldn't he comfort him at this time? At this time, Akimichi Tofu and Yamanaka Matoichi arrived, greeted Narashikaku familiarly, and sat down casually. Narashikachi saw that the two men seemed to be hesitant to speak, and he knew what they were here for. He turned around and gave Shikaku a hint with his eyes. Narashikaku's wisdom was evident since he was young. Knowing that the three were going to discuss something, he found a reason to leave. "Lu Yi, you look listless." Yamanaka Yuanai looked at his expression and found that he had heavy dark circles under his eyes. Narashika scratched his head and grumbled, "I can't help it. Hokage-sama has given me everything to do, so I naturally have to pay attention to it." The speaker may not have intended it, but the listener may have taken it to heart. When talking about Hoshino Kaede, Yamanaka Genichi's expression changed slightly when the Naradir saw this. He knew what his old friend was worried about, so he comforted him. "Yuanai, you worry too much? The Hokage-sama is not what you think." Akimichi Norifu, who had been eating snacks, also agreed. As Tobirama's disciple, he naturally had a relationship with Hoshino Kaede. "I also have some understanding of it, so I naturally won't worry." Yes, when the teacher was alive, he told us that as long as it is not a matter of principle, generally nothing will happen. After hearing what the two said, the worry on Yamanaka Genichi's face disappeared and his expression relaxed. I know Shikajo, support the Hokage, so there's no need to worry too much. Hokage-sama is showing his goodwill by entrusting the inauguration ceremony to me." Narashikachi saw it more deeply than they did. The fact that Hoshino Feng handed the ceremony over to him implied trust in it, and they just had to follow closely. "That's true. I was worrying too much," Yamanaka Yuanai suddenly realized, and then said with gloating, "I guess other families are not so lucky. I heard that the Hyuga family not only gave back all the profits they had swallowed, but also provided additional compensation. Even the clan leader came to apologize in person." When Narashika heard this, his expression changed, and then he shook his head and sighed. "There are many smart people in the world. Hinata Mori has her long-term vision. This way, Hinata will have nothing to worry about." Shanzihangidun was stunned when he heard this and asked, "What do you mean?" Hinata was so decisive and was the first to come and apologize. First of all, she has already won in terms of impression. Plus, she has added extra compensation. Hokage will definitely look at her with a higher regard. This retreat not only provides Hinata with a protective amulet, but also leaves a good impression on the Hokage. It can be said to be very smart. The analysis confused the two people who were sitting and listening. They could understand the beginning, as their IQ was not bad, but they became more and more confused as time went on. and only had a vague understanding. Sigh. Looking at the two confused people, Narashika felt even more tired. This team is not easy to lead. It's okay. All you need to know is that Hinata made a lot of money. Narashika didn't intend to explain any more. There was no point in going deeper. Adding icing on the cake is far less effective than helping someone in need. There should be a sequence in admitting mistakes. Seeing that Narashika was not going to say anything, they stopped asking. The Nara clan has always been responsible for the brain power, and all they have to do is follow behind and cheer. On the street, a white-haired young man with a lewd look on his face was crouching in a secluded place and peeping into the bathhouse. He had a lustful look on his face, and kept commenting, his saliva almost dripping while he was immersed in admiring the beauty. A murderous intent appeared behind him, and his teeth were grinding. Come here. The roar went straight into the sky and could be heard in most of Konoha. Tsunade walked towards Jiraiya with murderous intent on her face. Tsunade, I'm just looking for material. I don't have any bad intentions, you have to believe me. Jiraiya hurriedly defended himself, but Tsunade would not believe his lies. If Jiraiya could change his peeping habit, she would not gamble any more. Bang! Boom! The powerful punch knocked Jiraiya directly into the wall, instantly creating a big hole. Orochimaru watched this scene expressionlessly, but his stern face couldn't help but twitch. Who? After throwing this punch, Tsunade felt relaxed all over. As expected, when it comes to Jiraiya, it's better to take action and never say nonsense. If you dare to peek again, I will make you regret it for the rest of your life, Tsunade said viciously to Jiraiya, who was grimacing in pain. Hiss. Tsunade, can you be gentler? It hurts, Jiraiya complained. Tsunade snorted, you deserve it. Orochimaru, why didn't you stop him? Jiraiya looked at Orochimaru again, trying to get help. Haha, you'd better behave yourself. You're going to see the Hokage soon. If he finds out, you'll be in trouble. Orochimaru ignored his words and said instead. Hearing this, Tsunade glared at Jiraiya again, grabbed his ear, and put him under her nose to watch. Orochimaru chuckled and followed. Chapter 86 Orochimaru and number 039, S Desire. Knock, knock, knock. A series of knocks on the door sounded. Zingai Feng yawned and said, who is it? Disturbing my lunch break. Click. Zingai Feng rubbed his eyes and opened the door. Brother Feng. Tsunade greeted happily. The sleepiness of Zingai Feng disappeared without a trace. Little Tsunade, you've grown so big, Tsunade said unhappily. Humph, I'm not little anymore. Yes, Tsunade. Hoshino Kaede found it a little funny and still a little childish. Jiraiya, your face. Hoshino Feng turned his eyes and looked at Jiraiya in surprise. Wow, Lord Hoshino, you have to control Tsunade. She's too violent, Jiraiya cried. His tone aggrieved. Orochimaru moved aside calmly, his eyes looking at his nose and his nose looking at his heart, as if he didn't know him. Tsunade clenched her fists and threatened with force. Jiraiya, it seems that I was too lenient. Who told you to talk nonsense? Why did I talk nonsense? Did I say something wrong? Perhaps because of the presence of Kaede Hoshino? Jiraiya became bolder and bolder. Usually, he would take the beatings in silence. Upon hearing this, Tsunade was furious. She rolled up her sleeves and was ready to beat him up, determined to give him a lesson that would hurt him to the bone. Hoshino Kaede shook his head, rolled his eyes, and said teasingly, hitting is love, scolding is love. Tsunade, you are not in love with Jiraiya, are you? Shocking words. The three of them stood there in astonishment. Jiraiya reacted the fastest, and immediately jumped up and said, how is it possible? How could I like this violent girl? Unless the Sage of Six Paths is alive, I will never like her even if I die. Tsunade's eyes were blazing with fire, and she immediately started to discuss physics. What? You dare to say that again? Jiraiya stiffened his neck and ran out stubbornly, then turned back to continue provoking Tsunade, looking like he was enjoying it. Say it 100 times. Hoshino Kaede looked at the two people going away and was immediately amused. These two people are quite interesting, right, Orochimaru? Orochimaru forced a smile on his cold face, which was uglier than crying. Hoshino Feng looked at him. Uncle Snake was more normal at this time than he was in his later years. You three came here just to say hello, right? Asked Zingai Feng. Orochimaru said, it's me who has something I want to ask Master Hoshino. Zingai Feng raised an eyebrow. Tell me about it. After a pause, Orochimaru said seriously, life in this world is so fragile, why do we still try so hard to live? Zingai Feng narrowed his eyes. Why do you think so? Orochimaru's expression darkened, as if he was recalling something bad. When I was a child, I witnessed the death of my parents. I felt like the sky had fallen and I was in a daze all day long. After that, I kept trying to find the meaning of life, but I found that there was death all around me. I was very confused. Hoshino Kaede looked at Orochimaru, who had a confused look in his eyes, and was silent for a long while before answering him. You asked a question that confused me. A gleam appeared in Orochimaru's eyes and he looked at him expectantly. This question is so broad that it is hard to explain it in one sentence, but I can tell you that life goes hand in hand with death, and neither can exist without the other. As he spoke, Zingai Feng lightly tapped his forehead with his finger. An array of faint light suddenly poured into his brain. Orochimaru's thoughts drifted far away, and he followed a faint light back to the past. He saw himself as a newborn and the baby crying, heralding the beginning of life. The mother had a loving look on her face as she looked at the little one and whispered softly, "Mother, mother." Orochimaru's vague childhood memories emerged. Tears uncontrollably welled up in his eyes, and he muttered to himself. The scenes of his childhood played out before his eyes, until his parents passed away. Everyone has 7 emotions and 6 desires, even Orochimaru. His heart is aching and his emotions can't help but flow out. Reason told him that these were all in the past and not worth remembering, but his instinctive emotions made him cry. Orochimaru reached out his trembling hand, wanting to touch the mother in his memory, but memories are just memories. As my trembling fingers passed through my mother's chest, everything seemed so unreal. Boom! Just as he was stunned, a loud explosion pulled him back to reality. Outside, Orochimaru cried silently. Bean-sized tears slid down his cheeks, and his dull eyes came back to his senses. What you desire in your heart should be love, the love of your parents. Zingai Feng's voice suddenly sounded. Orochimaru remained silent and touched his heart. The warm heart was beating strongly. It was given by his mother. You asked about the meaning of life, but I think it should be this: there's nothing wrong with immortality. If you want to pursue it, it has nothing to do with me. It's all about time and fate. Those plain words went deep into Orochimaru's heart, and a seed was planted in his heart. Orochimaru wiped the tear marks on his face and smiled with relief. Thank you. This thank you was filled with his greatest respect. It's okay. They are all children of Konoha, and it's what I should do. Hoshino Kaede waved his hand and looked at him gently. This is a talent among talents. It takes many years for a technological genius to appear in the ninja world. It is very important for the future development of Konoha. So of course we must take good care of it. Technology changes life, but first of all, we need to change the people who influence technology. In the 27th year of Konoha, the weather was sunny and the temperature was moderate. A joyous atmosphere filled the entire Konoha village, and every household had a happy look on their faces because today is the inauguration ceremony of the 3rd Hokage. The villagers gathered in the Hokage building, and the place was filled with people, a huge crowd. A moment later, Zingai Feng's figure slowly walked out, instantly causing a scream. Hoshino-sama! Hoshino-sama! Wow wow wow! Look here! Here! Kaede Hoshino, wearing the Hokage robe, looked at the enthusiastic villagers and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Standing in the Hokage building and looking down at everyone, a feeling of pride and ambition arose spontaneously. Everyone! Zingai Feng raised his hand and suppressed it. There was silence in an instant, but the soft words rang in everyone's ears. The warm and gentle faces like a breeze, giving people hope. Everyone looked up at him with admiration in their eyes. Behind Zingai Feng, the clan leaders all had solemn expressions. Even Jiraiya, who was usually jumpy, became quiet. All of Konoha's higher-ranking officials gathered together and were present, looking at Kaede Hoshino in front of them. Hoshino Yoda and Sakura Kinomoto were all filled with emotion. The little kid who used to act like a spoiled brat with them is now able to shoulder the responsibility of Konoha. Uzumaki Miro looked at the high-spirited Hoshino Kaede and couldn't help but recall the past. It seems that Hashirama back then was the same as he is now, the center of everyone's attention. Wow, so awesome! Hoshino Teru opened his mouth wide, looking surprised. I want to be a Hokage in the future, the little guy swore secretly in his heart. Chapter 87: The 3rd Hokage Inauguration Ceremony. Hoshino Feng looked around, his heart pounding, and said, "It has been 27 years since the first Hokage pacified the troubled times and founded Konoha village. Konoha has gone from being a wasteland in ruins to a peaceful and prosperous place today, all thanks to everyone's struggle and hard work. The hard work of the 2nd Hokage has laid a solid foundation for Konoha. The quality of life is improving day by day, and a peaceful atmosphere permeates the Konoha village." His voice was slow and low, carrying the accumulation of years and recollections of the past, but it makes people feel a sense of belonging and pride. The sonorous and powerful language stirs people's emotions, like a war drum. Stirring in people's ears, people's faces gradually turned red, and their eyes flashed with excitement, as if they saw their past efforts and persistence, as well as their hope and longing for the future. The figure of Hoshino Kaede was reflected in his eyes, and his inner admiration became more fanatical and firm. Long live the first generation, long live the second generation, long live Lord Hoshino. I don't know who started it, but someone shouted excitedly. It triggered a chain reaction, with waves of praise getting louder and louder. The atmosphere on the scene was boiling, and the momentum seemed to overturn the sky. Zingai Feng raised his hand and pressed it down again. His voice gradually calmed down, and he continued, I was born in the first year of Konoha, the year it was founded. I grew up with Konoha and was later accepted as a disciple by the First Hokage. That was my most relaxing and warmest time. Tears welled up in Hoshino Kaede's eyes and her voice began to sound sad. A feeling of sadness spread, and people seemed to see the figures of the master and disciple running in the sunset. Emotions are contagious, and there were sobs and tears flowing from the scene. The joyful atmosphere suddenly changed, but Hoshino Kaede then raised his voice and looked solemn. But time is ruthless. It took my teacher away. Before he left, he told me that we should look forward in life, and sadness is only temporary. The suffering will eventually pass, and the future is in your hands and mine. And today, I will inherit my teacher's will and become the third Hokage. For that, I feel honored. At the same time, I also feel a great sense of responsibility. Konoha is everyone's Konoha, and the Hokage is here to serve everyone, taking from the people, using for the people. I firmly believe that as long as everyone is united, there is no difficulty that cannot be overcome. Finally, I want to say that wherever the leaves dance, the fire will never stop. Let us contribute to the construction of Konoha together. After the speech, there was a brief silence, followed by a burst of earth-shaking screams. Kaede Hoshino's speech was passionate, with ups and downs, like a roller coaster, but the effect was outstanding. Everyone was in high spirits, and the originally shaken people's hearts were calmed. An inauguration ceremony was a brilliant move to regain the people's support that Konoha had lost over the years. Even Naruto, who was watching from the side, couldn't control his emotions. It was so inspiring. Fortunately, Lord Hoshino was born in Konoha, and fortunately he is the Hokage. Such a Hokage is a blessing to Konoha and to the people. I seem to have seen the day when Konoha prospers. Naruto murmured. His eyes flickered with a hint of excitement and longing. After the ceremony, the crowd dispersed, but the topic could not be stopped, and Zingai Feng breathed a sigh of relief. Finally it was done. It was worth the time he spent considering the words. Fortunately, the effect is good. Talking is not his forte, it's just because of his experience in his past life. Brother, you were so handsome just now. Hoshino Teru rubbed him like a lackey, looking like a fanboy. Zingai Feng smiled and touched his head. Being handsome is useless. Helping Konoha develop is what's really cool. Hoshino Teru's little head seemed to be thinking about something. Seeing this, Zingai Feng just smiled and looked at Naruto. Shikaichi, notify all the senior executives that there is something to announce. Yes, Naruto nodded without hesitation. Son, you really surprised me today. After Naruto left, Hoshino stepped forward and said, it's nothing. It's just what I really think. I just polished it up a bit, Zingai Feng said modestly. Uzumaki Miro covered his mouth and laughed. I didn't realize before that you have such a good tongue. Today's speech will probably cause a stir. Konoha is going to be lively again. Hearing this, Zingai Feng spread his hands and pretended to be helpless. Alice, there's nothing I can do. It just happened on a whim. Let's have some fun. This is not a big deal. Uzumaki Miro naturally didn't believe it and just shook his head. Hokage-sama, everyone is here. Maruboshi Kosuke suddenly said. Zingai Feng nodded. I'm leaving first. I won't be back soon. I still have a lot of things to deal with. Hoshino nodded and sighed inwardly. It was less common when I was at home before, and now that I'm finally back, it's still the same. All I can say is that everyone has their own gains and losses. Zixeo, Zhenhong, Yi, follow me. Zingai Feng called the names of 3 disciples and then went to the meeting room. The 3 of them were also confused, but they reacted quickly and followed immediately. Kaede Hoshino, wearing the Hokage robe, rushed to the meeting room in a hurry. From this moment on, the burden of Konoha fell on his shoulders. The first meeting of the new Hokage seemed very quiet, or rather, in awe. Before succeeding the Hokage, Kaede Hoshino urged all clans to hand over the embezzled money, so it has been delayed until today. Some families are taking chances, thinking that the law does not hold everyone responsible and that they can get away with it, but they underestimated Feng Zingai and overestimated themselves. After learning about this, he took prompt action and ordered the Anbu to arrest and imprison him. This thundering move made all the tribes nervous, and the last glimmer of hope was cut off. During those days, Zingai Feng displayed fierce methods. As if telling them that this was the consequence of disobeying, therefore, no one dared to speak casually at this moment, all because of His Majesty. The last time this happened was when the first Hokage selected the second Hokage. Everyone is so quiet. Why aren't you talking? Zingai Feng pushed open the door, and a depressing atmosphere hid him. After looking around, they all shrank their heads and said nothing. Seeing this, Zingai Feng shook his head. It seemed that he was scared, but it was normal. There has been some panic recently. It's time to let their tensions loosen up a bit. Giving a slap in the face and then giving a sweet aid is beneficial to both parties. Konoha still needs them to maintain its existence today, so we can't force them. I called everyone here because I plan to reform Konoha's organization. Previously, many organizations had overlapping responsibilities, which was too inconvenient, so I want to replan it, Zingai Feng said with a smile, his face gentle, not at all domineering. Everyone looked at each other, wondering what Zingai Feng was up to. Chapter 88 Great Changes. One word determines the fate. Now that Konoha's organization has matured and its various mechanisms have been perfected, it stands to reason that it will not change for some time to come. Now that Zingai Feng said this, everyone was really confused. Hoshino Kaede looked at their puzzled expressions, smiled, and nodded to the Naradir beside him. Narashika understood, took out a document, and then said, according to the instructions of the Hokage, make the following adjustments. As he spoke, his voice paused, then he looked at Uchiha Kitajima and said, the Konoha Guard will be abolished and changed to the Public Security Department. The head of the Uchiha clan will still be in charge, and Kurama Izumo will be the deputy head. This change made everyone's eyes move slightly. The Uchiha clan was nothing surprising, but the Kurama clan was very surprising. This clan has a very low presence in Konoha, and apart from illusions, they have nothing to show off. But although they were surprised, they did not lose their composure. However, the next sentence made their faces change, especially Uchiha Kitajima. His face was gloomy, like dark clouds covering the earth during a rainy day. The personnel are composed of Uchiha and other families. Uchiha cannot exceed half of the number. As the words fell, there was a burst of whispers in the room, all of which were about this statement. Since the founding of Konoha village, the Uchiha clan has always been responsible for maintaining law and order in the village, and other families have never been involved, and now, this stereotype has been directly broken. Half of the personnel have been transferred away, which is equivalent to the reduction of Uchiha's rights. The huge change made some perceptive people look at Uchiha Kitajima with a look of gloating in their eyes. Hokage-sama. Why? Sure enough, after hearing this arrangement, Uchiha Kitajima couldn't help but stand up and ask. He couldn't accept that the rights that originally belonged to the Uchiha clan were to be divided among other clans. If the family knew about this, it would definitely cause an uproar, or even cause unrest. There was anger and regret in Uchiha Kitajima's eyes. He regretted being impulsive and asking out loud, but, if you don't ask, things will get worse. The interrupted Narashikachi looked at Uchiha Kitajima, then looked at Hoshino Kaede. His eyes seemed to be asking questions. Zingai Feng nodded slightly, indicating that he should explain. Chief Kitajima, please be patient. The Hokage will explain it to you later. After getting permission, Narashikachi felt certain in his heart and said to Uchiha Kitajima with a smile. Hearing this, Uchiha Kitajima sat back down, but his expression was still ugly. Narashikachi cleared his throat and continued his announcement. Abolish the administrative department and add 3 new elders, to be Sarutobi Hiruzen, Shimura Danzo, and Narashikachi. When he saw his name, Narashikachi paused for a second, his heart filled with turmoil. I almost dropped the documents in my hands. The administrative department originally assisted the Hokage in handling some government affairs and was able to influence legislation, so its status was very high. Although it has been abolished now, the additional elders who can be appointed to fill the vacancies are equivalent to its existence. He was not surprised that Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo were the elders, but he was surprised that he was also on it. The elders only have the right to make suggestions, not the right to decide. Everything is subject to the Hokage's decision. After saying this, Narashika's mind suddenly became clear and he understood what Hoshino Kaede meant. He wants to find a part-time job for himself, which will not affect the status of Hokage and can also allow him to slack off. He is worthy of the character of Hokage. After complaining a little inwardly, Narashikachi adjusted his mind and then spoke. The Minister of Finance will be Utane Kaharu, and the Deputy Minister will be Midakato En. Finance is a very important institution. If you have money, you won't have to worry. Both of them were surprised to hear their names. They thought they would not get a share, but unexpectedly the surprise came so suddenly. After a burst of excitement, he slowly calmed down and remained calm on the surface. The Hokage will concurrently serve as the Minister of Education, Hatake Tsukumo will serve as the Minister of Anbu, and Midori Shishio will serve as the Deputy Minister. After listening to this, everyone was confused again. The Ministry of Education is fine, but the Anbu is a different story in terms of authority alone. The Anbu are second only to the Emperor, with power so great that it is boundless, and they are only responsible to the Hokage. Now Danzo has not established the route, so there is no division of the Anbu. A single Anbu is extremely terrifying. There were waves in Hatake Tsukumo's eyes, and he couldn't help but touch the scabbard behind him. His eyes gradually became firm. Yudere Zixio touched his nose. The surprise on his face had not yet disappeared. Obviously, he didn't know that Zingai Fen would make such arrangements. The Intelligence Department and the Interrogation Department have been merged into one department, called the Military Intelligence Department. The head is Genichi Yamanaka, and the deputy head is Aoba Marino. The position of Director of the Medical Department is temporarily vacant, and the most capable person will take up the position, except for the Anbu. All departments have equal status, and there is no distinction between superiors and subordinates. At this point, Narashika finished speaking. The series of arrangements left everyone still unprepared, and then with the tacit approval of Zingai Feng, they began to discuss with each other in a low voice. Everyone is in a different mood, and this adjustment makes them think differently. This is the second reshuffle of high-level power after the first Hokage. Half an hour later, Zingai Feng slowly opened his eyes, and the meeting fell silent in an instant. Uchiha Kitajima was very nervous and looked at Hoshino Kaede anxiously. Chief Kitajima, Hoshino Kaede looked at Uchiha Kitajima. Everyone looked over. After all, the Uchiha's power had just been severely reduced. This will definitely make people imagine that it is the third Hokage who is suppressing them without a reasonable explanation. I'm afraid the Uchiha will have a difficult future. Does Uchiha want to produce a Hokage? Hoshino Kaede's astonishing question stunned Uchiha Kitajima. Even the others were shocked by this. Your expression has already answered me. Uchiha Kitajima's face was struggling, and Hoshino Kaede smiled. As another clan that founded Konoha together with the Senju clan, you have coveted the position of Hokage for a long time. Uchiha Kitajima's heart skipped a beat and he hurriedly tried to explain. The looks in the eyes of the various tribes gradually turned into mockery. No, Hokage-sama, Hoshino Kaede waved his hand, interrupting him, and continued, I don't mean anything else. Everyone in Konoha can become Hokage, as long as he's a villager of Konoha. Everyone was stunned. Does this mean Uchiha is also okay? Uchiha Kitajima looked delighted, and before Hoshino Kaede finished speaking, he changed the subject. But the Uchiha's arrogance is known to everyone in the ninja world, and this is unacceptable to the Hokage. Today, I will disband the security team and introduce other families to it. This will be 100 benefits for you and no harm at all. Chief Kitajima, people can have pride, but not arrogance. Everyone in Konoha is the same. Hoshino Kaede said the last sentence meaningfully, looking back and forth at everyone. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 89: The Dawn of Uchiha. That gaze was extremely deep, as if it penetrated their hearts and reached the bottom of their hearts. I just felt a chill on my back, as if something was staring at me with a bitter smile on his lips. Everyone looked at each other, so he was talking about Uchiha on the surface, but was actually talking about them indirectly. If Hoshino Kaede knew what they were thinking, he would definitely shake his head and wave his hands. I'm not reminding you explicitly and implicitly. It's obvious that both of them are knocking. It's not impossible for the Uchiha to have a Hokage. I can even promise that as long as the Uchiha is supported by the people of Konoha, no matter who he is, he can become the Hokage. Hoshino Kaede looked at Uchiha Kitajima with a smile and promised. Really? Uchiha Kitajima couldn't believe it. They had wanted to become Hokage for a long time, but they just never had the chance. Since the establishment of the security team, the Uchiha's reputation in the village has plummeted. Although they are impartial in enforcing the law, the villagers say behind their backs that they are ruthless. This ruined their reputation in the village, and no one liked them. Of course, Zingai Feng nodded seriously, but I think this may not be a matter of 1 or 2 days. It requires hard work and you need to be mentally prepared, Hoshino Kaede said. But Uchiha Kitajima was already ecstatic, and his Sharingan was open with excitement. I don't know if it can be changed, but what Hoshino Kaede said is equivalent to telling him clearly that as long as he meets the conditions, he will be the next Hokage regardless of whether it exists or not. As long as they are given a chance, The family will be excited. The Uchiha have never been afraid of competition, not even on the battlefield. They were just worried that the road to the Hokage would be blocked, leaving no room for any wiggle. There has always been a speculation among them. It is believed that the second Hokage gave the guard team the thankless task in order to prevent the Hokage from falling into the hands of the Uchiha. Although it is impossible to prove whether it is true or not, reality tells them the cruel truth: this is a trap, and inside the trap are endless temptations, waiting for Uchiha to jump in. Once you jump down, it will be difficult to get out, and the meat you have got cannot be thrown away easily. And now, Zingai Feng gave an opportunity to go up the pit. This allowed a ray of light called hope to shine through the dark underground. Uchiha Kitajima was so excited that he could hardly control himself. Then Hoshino Feng said to the others, "These words apply to Uchiha, and they also apply to you. Hokage is not a position for personal gain." Hoshino Kaede continued, "The previous policies of Konoha should be changed if they should be changed. Lu Yi, you discuss this with the other two elders. Don't worry about anything." The domineering words echoed at this moment, and everyone seemed to see the shadow of the second generation. The same dictatorship, the same dominance. Yes, Narashikachi nodded seriously. Once the imperial sword was in hand, no one dared to stop him. After the meeting, everyone had a different expression on their face, some happy, some worried, and some scared. All kinds of things in the world appear here. "Teacher, what about me and Zhenhong?" Yu Guanggai said hurriedly after everyone left. "You?" Zingai Feng hesitated for a moment, looking distressed. "It seems that there is nothing suitable for you." Then he asked, "How about you become a teacher and partner with Gao Hu?" "What? Being a teacher is boring." Yu Guanggai immediately shook his head and refused to do it. Facing a group of naughty kids all day long, he was afraid that he would not be able to control himself and would kill them with one blow of the knife. Zingai Feng thought about it again and said, "How about this? You and Zhenhong go to find Yamanaka Genichi. That place should be suitable for you. Your bloodline limit combined with the red illusion should be able to play a big role." Upon hearing this, Yu Guangyi and Zairi Zhenhong's eyes lit up. Seeing the looks of the two, Zingai Feng felt a little amused. Suddenly, he had an idea and continued speaking. "There's also a position in the Anbu. Right now, they're short of manpower, and the top strength is a bit lacking." This is interesting. I find these little fights boring." Moonlight Knight held his head high, extremely satisfied. Zingai Feng glanced at him and said dimly, "Anbu is not the same as usual. You should restrain your temper." Yu Guangyi laughed twice and quickly said yes, while taking a step back without leaving a trace. "Teacher, I will watch you." The steady Zhenhong stood up. Zingai Feng nodded in satisfaction, then glared at Yu Guangyi again. "Go ahead, you're an adult now. You don't need to act like a child anymore." Zingai Feng waved his hand, and the two of them smiled awkwardly and left. Time flies so fast. Zingai Feng sighed, and then immersed himself in the sea of books. He had a lot of things to deal with now, and he had no time to think too much. Uchiha Kitajima returned home overjoyed. He couldn't hide his joy at all and was in the best mood ever. "What's wrong? Why are you so happy?" A charming woman knelt on the tatami, fiddling with food, and smiled at him. There was a little kid on the side, kneeling upright, looking like a little adult. Uchiha Kitajima first examined his son, and seeing that he was sitting well, he nodded with satisfaction, and then spoke, "Of course I am happy. Today's meeting has undergone tremendous changes. At home, Beidao seemed a little gentler, and the clan leader's aura was much more restrained." Uchiha Fugaku glanced at his father curiously, then quickly lowered his head. "Beidao is very strict on weekdays and doesn't allow talking while eating afterwards." Kitajima told about the arrangements for Uchiha in the meeting. "Liang, you know, this is a huge happy event for the Uchiha family," Uchiha Kitajima said excitedly. Uchiha Ryo was not an ignorant person and he knew how important this matter was to the Uchiha, but she still said with some concern, "But, Beidao, just because you can see clearly doesn't mean that the elders of the tribe can see clearly." Liang's reminder was like a basin of cold water poured over Beidao from head to toe, extinguishing his excitement. Then he sighed, "Ah, you are right, it will take some effort to convince the elders." Fugaku, who had been eating with his head down, suddenly asked in confusion, "But, isn't this a win-win situation? Why are you opposing it?" A childish voice suddenly interrupted. Beidao frowned, then relaxed his brows. A hint of approval flashed in his eyes, and he sneered, "Because they feel that this is a disgrace to the Uchiha clan." Speaking of this, Beidao couldn't help but sneer. Looking very disdainful, this kind of superficial glory is completely useless and is a rubbish to both the family and the individual. Uchiha Fugaku seemed to be thinking about something, his little head turning rapidly. "It's good that you asked this question," Beidao said. and suddenly praised Uchiha Fugaku was stunned for a moment, but then he smiled happily. There aren't many times when my father praises me. You guys eat first. I'm going to the clan meeting now. This matter needs to be resolved as soon as possible. Uchiha Kitajima put down his bowl and chopsticks, stood up and said, I will never let those stubborn people affect the overall situation. Beidao was full of murderous intent, his pair of scarlet eyes turning. Chapter 90, The Beggar Child, A Crisis of Trust. The next day, the sun rose in the east. Zingai Feng looked at the morning light outside the window, stood up and stretched after sitting all night. My waist became much stiffer. Hokage, there was a riot in the Uchiha clan's territory last night. An Anbu half knelt on the ground, appearing and disappearing mysteriously. Zingai Feng nodded slightly, waved his hand and said, got it. Upon hearing this, the Anbu flashed away without getting hurt by a single leaf, and their movements were silent. This Uchiha clan leader is really smart and knows how to observe the situation, Zingai Feng thought secretly. But it's a bit difficult for him to do it alone. Looks like we have to wait and see who'll be next. Fugaku. Hoshino Kaede thought of what Uchiha Fugaku had done and his expression became complicated. He was indecisive, failed at critical moments, and dared not rebel. He handed his life to his son just to fulfill his wish and destroy the Uchiha clan. Forget it, let's wait and see. Anyway, with me here, the Uchiha can't cause any trouble. Hoshino Kaede chuckled, his thoughts clear. Having strength means being able to do whatever he wants, and it is his greatest confidence. Let's go out for a walk. Even if you are the Hokage, you have to be close to the people. This idea suddenly occurred to Zingai Feng, as if it came on a whim. Then he changed his clothes and used transformation skills to change his appearance. After all, with his fame, everyone probably knows him. When I came to the street, I saw people coming and going. Everyone seemed to be very busy, racing against time and walking in a fast pace. Zingai Feng saw this and couldn't help but shook his head. We still need to develop. After sighing, suddenly several thin figures caught his attention. He frowned and his face instantly became gloomy. In front of a vendor, several children had pleading looks on their faces and kept begging, hoping to get some food. Please, give me something to eat. Upon hearing this, the vendor boss said with disgust, go away, don't disturb my business. The leading child looked gloomy and left in disappointment. We have been away for a long time. It's time to go back, otherwise the dean will be angry. The child behind him said timidly, his little eyes full of anxiety. The child called you bit his lips stubbornly, shook his head, and turned back to speak to them. No, the dean's mother is already very busy. We have to share some of the burden, even if it's just a little bit. The rest of the children fell silent. Children from poor families have to grow up early, and they could more or less feel the difficulties faced by the dean. It was better in the past few years, but in recent years, Konoha's economy has been sluggish, and the upper class has been fighting for power and profit. A money-losing orphanage naturally would not have enough funds to maintain its operation at this time. A child suddenly said, I heard that the new Hokage took office. I wonder if there will be any changes. Humph. Before the other children could say anything, Yu sneered and said, change your mind? It's good enough if you don't cause any trouble to us. Those senior executives never cared about our lives. Speaking of this, Yu looked excited, and hatred flashed across his face. I wonder what he had been through to become like this. Zingai Feng's eyes were dark and he couldn't tell what he felt in his heart. He seemed to be too optimistic. Even the children are disappointed with the top management, let alone the adults. Konoha has reached a critical moment, a crisis of losing the hearts of the people. But I heard that when he took over a few days ago, many people were cheering. Yusuk said in a low voice. Yu's face was conflicted, and his first reaction was disbelief, thinking that he was just doing it for show. Yes, I sneaked out to see it that day, another child echoed, perhaps having seen it before. With an expectant look in his eyes, there was a roar of applause and a look of joy. I seemed to see the hope that the director's mother had talked about. His eyes were expectant and full of longing. Even if you are in darkness for a long time, you still have hope in your heart, longing for a ray of light to illuminate the darkness and break the haze. Yu pursed his lips, still stubbornly unbelieving, and said stubbornly, don't be silly. People like us are worse than trash, let alone hope. His words were like a basin of cold water, instantly extinguishing the hope that was about to be ignited, leaving only a tiny glimmer of light that was about to go out. Everyone couldn't help but lower their heads, feeling inferior and looking depressed. I don't think so, the sudden adult voice sounded. Startling them, Hoshino Feng walked slowly in front of them with a loving and gentle look on his face. It makes them feel as if a breeze has blown away the haze, but soon, Yu became alert and took a few steps back with the other children. Who are you? What do you want to do? Yu Sheng is fierce but weak. He appears tough on the outside, but he is very nervous inside, fearing that the person coming is a bad guy. Seeing his look, Xingai Feng couldn't help but chuckle, and as he laughed, tears flashed in his eyes. These children should have been nestled in their parents' arms, enjoying the love and care comfortably, but now they are like frightened rabbits, and every move makes them afraid and tremble. This made his heart ache again. There was confusion in Yu's eyes. This person was a little strange. He actually cried, however, even so, he did not relax at all, but became more vigilant. Danger never appears on the surface, but hides deeper, waiting for the moment to relax to deliver a fatal blow. You are. Suddenly, the child who had sneaked out before showed doubt in his eyes, and felt that the person in front of him was very familiar. After looking at it for a moment, he exclaimed, "You are the Hokage." Hoshino Kaede had already lifted the transformation technique, and the succession ceremony had only been a few days, so it was not surprising that he could be recognized. Yu asked in a low voice while looking at Xingai Feng, "Are you sure he is the third Hokage?" He was disappointed with the higher ups and showed no respect for the Hokage. Yes, it was this person who stood on the Hokage building and gave a speech that day, causing a lot of people to cheer. The child nodded very affirmatively. If you hadn't pulled him, he would have run up long ago. So what if he's the Hokage? He's the same as those people. Yu gritted his teeth and whined like a little wolf cub, with a fierce and distrustful look on his face. Hoshino Feng didn't care about his attitude, or rather, he had no reason to care. It must be obvious why this kid hates the higher ups so much at this moment. Xingai Feng was distracted and his eyes were blurred at this moment. Yu Xin became ruthless and rushed forward at an extremely fast speed, biting Xingai Feng's wrist with his small teeth. Hiss! The force was so brutal that after one bite, Xingai Feng felt the pain instantly peak. The bright red blood flowed into Yu's mouth, and the pungent smell aroused his bloodiness again. Hokage-sama, the Anbu hiding in the dark appeared instantly and was about to step forward to pull Yu away, but was scolded by Hoshino Kaede. "Don't come over here. This is between me and this child. Don't interfere." Chapter 91, Pharmacist Hori. Hoshino Kaede shouted harshly, causing the angry Anbu to shrink his neck and dare not move forward. "Good boy, are you born in the year of the dog? Your teeth are so good." Xingai Feng smiled silently, touched Yu's head with his other intact hand, his tone full of teasing. He didn't look angry at all, but rather had a friendly expression, like the brother next door. The pain in his wrist seemed to be non-existent and his expression was calm and composed. Seeing this, Yu restrained his fierceness, pursed his lips and stepped back, avoiding the hand that was touching his head. With an uncomfortable look on his face, Hoshino Kaede chuckled and then looked at his wrist. The bite mark was very deep, and the flesh was roughly cut by the sharp teeth, and blood gushed out. Xingai Feng remained calm at this. This injury was not worth mentioning to him. It was just a small wound. Then he called upon the power of time to cover the wound in an instant. The skin and flesh were healing inwards and closing at a speed visible to the naked eye. It disappeared in a short while. Yu's expression changed slightly. This miraculous thing shocked him greatly, and it also showed how powerful the person in front of him was. "I'm sorry, I'm standing too high and always overlook some small details. I apologize to you here." To everyone's surprise, Hoshino Kaede actually bowed deeply to the group of children with an apologetic look on his face. "It has nothing to do with Hokage-sama," Yusuke said timidly, hiding behind others. Although they were young, they knew that the current Hokage left 8 years ago and had only just returned now. What happened in Konoha had nothing to do with the person in front of him. Xingai Feng looked at him and said gently, "It wasn't there before, but it is now." Then he looked at the leader Yu, who had a complicated expression on his face. "Can you take me to the orphanage?" Hoshino Feng was not arrogant, but gave him enough respect and did not look down on him just because they were children. Sometimes, children see things more clearly than adults. They can see the big picture from a small perspective and look at things from the side, so they may see things differently. As Xingai Feng finished speaking, Yu did not respond, but just looked at him straight, as if trying to see something from his face. "Just now I heard you say that the orphanage is short of funds. Maybe I can solve the problem." Seeing that Yu didn't move, Xingai Feng just smiled and then told him about the orphanage. After all, everyone would be alert when facing strangers, even if he is the Hokage. Hearing this, Yu's eyes moved slightly, his brows knitted, then loosened, turned around and said, "Follow me." Hoshino Kaede chuckled and followed. Konoha Orphanage was originally established after the First Ninja World War, with the main purpose of adopting children who lost their loved ones in the war. But as the war ended, life gradually returned to normal, and the orphanage no longer only took in war orphans. Some unwanted children also entered the orphanage. With more children, funds became tighter, and every child needed nutrition, which also caused the orphanage's life to get worse day by day. Life was so tight that even having meat was a luxury. Fang Hoshino followed the children through twists and turns and arrived at a remote area in the northwest corner of Konoha. The population here is sparse, the trees are dense, and wild animals often appear. Fortunately, the village set up a ceiling formation around it to protect the orphanage. "It's just ahead," Yu said calmly, and without waiting for him to say anything, he led the people behind him, and Feng Xingai stood at the door. The door in front of him was corroded by rust and had fallen into disrepair after years of neglect. Seeing this, he could already anticipate the situation inside. "Oh," Xingai Feng sighed deeply and stepped inside. The door made an unpleasant, harsh sound, as if silently mocking the inaction of Konoha's top leaders. "Children are the seedlings of the village. What hope can they have if they live in such an environment? As you step into the yard, you can see weeds everywhere and an abandoned scene. Few people come here, and the arrival of Xingai Feng also makes the children in the yard curious." Just as he was watching, the dean came running over, followed by a large group of children. "Hokage-sama." Upon hearing the Hokage's arrival, the dean suddenly became nervous. Xingai Feng looked at her and greeted her with a smile. "Hello, Dean. I'm sorry for disturbing you." Yakashi Chiho was flattered and waved her hands awkwardly, with every move full of tenderness. This made Xingai Feng look at her a little more. "Hokage-sama, it is an honor for us to have you here." As soon as the words fell, Yu shouted and yelled, "Dean Mom, it should be his honor to be here." Upon hearing this, Yakashi Chihori quickly covered his mouth and said apologetically, "Hokage, children speak without restraint." Yu didn't mean it. Even though his mouth was blocked, his eyes showed no sign of surrender, as if that was what he was supposed to do. "It's okay, he's right." Hoshino Feng smiled and didn't mind. Yakashi Chiho was stunned for a moment, then smiled, pulled Yu behind her, reached out and knocked on his head, signaling him to be more obedient. "I wonder if Lord Hokage has come here for something?" asked Yakashi Chihori expectantly. "The food on the hospital is almost gone and we can only hold out for a few days. If we don't find a solution, the children will starve, which makes us very worried." The fluctuations in emotions made Feng Xingai sigh that the children here are very lucky to have a dean who cares about them so much. "Dean, I don't know your name yet." "Yakashi Chihori," she said slowly after hesitating for a moment. "Pharmacist? This last name?" Hoshino Kaede blinked, feeling his gaze. Yakashi Chiho asked in confusion, "What's wrong?" "No, nothing, I just remembered something," Xingai Feng said after coming back to his senses. Then he said seriously, "I will deal with the matter of the orphanage immediately. The children are the hope and future of the village. We can't leave them alone. After that, I will ask the Ministry of Finance to allocate funds. If the amount is insufficient, you can go to the Hokage building and tell me." Yakashi Chihori was overjoyed and cried with joy. The things that had troubled her for a long time were finally resolved, and she felt much happier. Xingai Feng looked at Yu again. "Can you tell me why you hate the top leaders of Konoha? Is it because of something they did?" Yu looked at him with hatred on his face. It was hard to imagine that a child could have such resentment. Yakashi Chiho looked hesitant, then gritted her teeth and said, "The child's father was a chunin, who died in a mission, and the original pension was embezzled. Finally, he ended up in an orphanage." Hearing this, Xingai Feng didn't know how to comfort her. Ultimately, it was due to wrong decisions made by senior management and lax management. "What do you want to do in the future?" asked Xingai Feng. Yu raised his head. The hatred in his eyes did not diminish, and turned into murderous intent. "I want revenge." Yakashi Chihori frowned and scolded, "You. What are you talking about?" Xingai Feng waved his hand, walked forward, squatted down, looked him straight in the eyes, and said, "Okay, I'll give you this chance." Chapter 92, We Are Both Willing. How can it be called cheating? After leaving the orphanage, Feng Hoshino looked up at the blue sky. In his eyes, the sky of Konoha was not so clear. Evil spirits and monsters are mixed in it, polluting the sky which should be clean. "Hokage-sama, Lord Shikachi is looking for you." Anbu suddenly appeared and said calmly, "Really? Then let's go back first and let Zyachin take care of the things here." Hoshino Kaede nodded, gave an order, and quickly walked towards the Hokage building. Before entering the door, I could hear an arguing sound from inside. "Minister Kaharu, according to Lord Hokage's wishes, commercial taxes must be reduced and cannot be the same as before," Nara Shikachi said seriously. But if we surrender now, Konoha's fragile economy will collapse in an instant, Kaoru retorted, without any specious arguments, but speaking in accordance with the facts. What you said makes sense, and you all have your own reasons. Zengai Feng shook his head and pushed the door open. Hokage Sama, Narashikachi stepped forward quickly and told him everything. Zengai Feng nodded, sat down and said, I know the general process. He turned to look at Kaoru and said, too heavy a business tax is not friendly to merchants. It is not conducive to the development of Konoha. It must be reduced. In the short term, it will indeed affect Konoha's finances, but we can't always focus on the near future. We need to look further ahead. Kaoru sighed when she heard this. I know that, but the finances are really tight right now. If there is any big move, it will be very disadvantageous to Konoha. Narashikachi then went on to say, based on the current financial situation, even if it can be reduced, it can only be reduced a little bit, and this is already the limit. All departments need funds to operate, people have to eat, and some have families to support. Overall, it's been very difficult. Even though he was known for his wisdom, he couldn't think of a solution. After listening to this, Zengai Feng looked at the two people with sad faces and smiled. Since we can't make money internally, let's look for it from the outside. Outside? Both of them looked at each other in confusion. That's right, Hoshino Kaede nodded. A long time ago, I wrote a letter and asked someone to take it to the daimyo, hoping to help Konoha. Narashikachi shook his head and said with a wry smile, it is impossible for the daimyo to allocate funds. His tone was very certain, leaving no room for ambiguity as far as the Fire Nation is concerned. Konoha village only obeys orders and not warnings. The Hokage is the actual leader, and the daimyo cannot interfere at all, which makes the successive daimyo very unhappy with Konoha, not to mention allocating funds in response. Zengai Feng said meaningfully, that's hard to say. Naradir was stunned. Could there be a turning point? At this moment, there was a knock on the door and a voice came from outside. Hokage-sama, someone has come from the capital, saying that the funds to aid Konoha have arrived. Got it, Zengai Feng replied, then looked at the two of them. Well, I said maybe not. After being shocked, Narashikachi came to his senses and asked, how did you do that? It's very simple. Hoshino Kaede leaned back and said easily, just tell the daimyo the pros and cons, and exaggerate a few things to make him think that Konoha has reached the end of its rope. If Konoha falls, it will not be good news for the land of fire. Udatane. Kaoru said doubtfully, but the daimyo is not a fool. It's impossible that he wouldn't send someone to verify it. That's right, Hoshino Kaede smiled with a successful plot. So, I asked the Anbu to act out a play with him. Seeing is not necessarily believing. Narashikachi rubbed his brows and said, you are deceiving me. Once the daimyo finds out, it will be the end of us. Zengai Feng waved his hand nonchalantly. How can it be called cheating if we both agree to it? Zyajin, this money should be enough for a short period of time. I'll give it all to you. Kaoru was extremely happy and nodded immediately. Leave it to me. After saying that, his eyes glowed green as he rushed out the door, ready to receive the funds. This can only quench your thirst temporarily. Narashikachi frowned. I know. So, come and take a look at this. Hoshino Kaede took out a document from the drawer. Narashikachi took it and read it carefully. After a while, his eyes lit up like light bulbs. He was so excited that his breathing became rapid. If this is implemented, it can instantly solve Konoha's financial problems, even able to control the economy of the ninja world. By then, Konoha will be as rich as a country. It's no wonder that he was so excited. He was truly shocked by the epic-making content in the document. Hoshino combined what she saw and heard in her previous life with the current economic trends in the ninja world, formulated a series of reform plans for Konoha with Narashikachi's perspective. He thought about it carefully and realized the intention behind this, but just from these one or two things, we can see how big Zengai Feng's plan is. Lu Yi, this plan is currently unknown to you. Please keep it confidential. You can investigate secretly in the village and find out the truth. It's better to be late than to be impatient. Zengai Feng's expression was extremely serious, which showed how much importance he attached to this plan. I understand. Narashikachi adjusted his mind and said solemnly, this requires a suitable time. There was a gleam in Zengai Feng's eyes, as if he had thought of something. Narashikachi was thoughtful when he heard this. Suddenly, Zengai Feng turned his head and looked out the window, and the noisy sounds came into his ears from time to time. Looking at the scene outside the window, he spoke with a deep gaze as if casually. Lu Yi, do you think the Uchiha and Hyuga clans are born to be incompatible? The old ones are beaten, and the young ones are restless. Narashikechi's heart moved, and he immediately went forward to take a look inside the school playground. There are 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside forming a circle. The 2 people in the center were panting, with scars on their faces, but both looked unconvinced. Hokage-sama, the 2 people fighting are Hyuga Hayashi and Uchiha Fugaku. Both are children of the 2 clan leaders. After Narashika finished speaking, he mourned for the 2 tribes in his heart. Lord Hokage has set his sights on both clans. Putting aside personal factors, I think those 2 are quite capable and have a solid foundation. Hinata Mori and Uchiha Kitajima taught well, at least in terms of strength. Hoshino Kaede commented on the 2 of them with great interest, as if he was watching a performance. Lu Yi, do you think the title of Konoha's #1 family is really that attractive? Hoshino Feng suddenly asked. Narashikazu thought about it for a moment, then pretended to be confused and said, I don't know. Hearing this, Zingai Feng snorted lightly and didn't ask any more questions. It's just right. We should pay more attention to the education in schools. Don't they like to compete for first place? Let someone hang the top 3 at the gate so people can see them. Oh, and hang the bottom 3 as well. The devil inside of Hoshino Kaede surfaced, with a smirk on his face. Hokage-sama, you are adding fuel to the fire, Narashika said in a low voice. Adding fuel to the fire? That's true. Zingai Feng thought about it carefully. But there's no harm in healthy competition. After saying that, he added another sentence. Of course, there will be rewards for the top 3. Konoha's B rank and below ninjutsu will be open to them. Chapter 93, Konoha and number 039, S28th year, financial surge. Since it is a competition, there must be rewards. The opening of ninjutsu below B rank is very valuable to students, especially civilians. But Narashikechi hesitated. Isn't this too high? B-level ninjutsu is already a very high-level ninjutsu. Others may have objections, and students may not be able to use them. There is reason to worry, said Feng Zingai after thinking for a moment. Then let's change it. In the future, C-rank ninjutsu will be open to the public. That will be balanced? Narashikechi's mouth twitched. That's not what I meant, Lu Yi. Hoshino Kaede waved his hand to stop him from saying the next thing. C-level ninjutsu is nothing to the ninja clan. They won't make enemies with me because of this. Don't worry. Having said that, Narashikechi didn't know what to say anymore. Just as Hoshino Kaede said, C-level ninjutsu is not considered to be a very advanced ninjutsu. It is not very rare and is within the tolerance of those families. But what he was worried about was not this, but the future. Narashikechi felt that this was just the beginning and there would be more to come. But this is just a guess, and we can't just ask directly. Trouble, huh? It seems that the Uchiha is still better. It's surprising that Fugaku can use ninjutsu, Hoshino Kaede suddenly exclaimed. Uchiha Fugaku was seen making seals with his hands and spitting out a burning fireball from his mouth, rushing straight towards Hyuga Hayashi. For a child of this age, ninjutsu is out of reach normally. It is impossible to use ninjutsu, but there are always some geniuses who like to break people's routines. It seems that Uchiha Fugaku is one of them, but that's right. He doesn't have high talent and it's impossible for him to open the main Gekkai Sharingan. The fireball came with great force, and Hinata Hayashi stood there in a daze. His palms sweating and his sense of crisis was overwhelming. The venue is limited and this fireball took up most of the space. Hinata Hayashi gritted his teeth, jumped to the edge, and narrowly missed the fireball nourishes. But despite this, Hinata Hayashi was still burned by the fireball, and a large number of bubbles appeared on his arm with different shades of color. Hinata Hayashi gritted his teeth, stubbornly trying not to make any sound. He wouldn't allow himself to do that in front of the Uchiha. Just as Hinata Hayashi was struggling to stand up, the light in front of him dimmed and a shadow loomed in front of him. Uchiha Fugaku looked down at him and said in a victorious tone, "You lose." Tantan's words were like sharp knives piercing into the heart. Hinata Hayashi clenched his fist unwillingly and said through gritted teeth, "It's just once." Uchiha Fugaku sneered, "Once is equal to forever. This is a fact." Hinata Hayashi staggered to his feet, ignoring the burn on his arm, and said word by word, "I will win back next time." The fighting spirit in his eyes grew stronger and stronger, almost becoming physical. The family's sense of honor seemed to be his driving force. Hearing this, Uchiha Fugaku raised his eyebrows and said, "I'll wait, tisk. If you don't treat your injury, it will get infected." Hoshino Feng appeared instantly. "Hello, Lord Hokage." Seeing Kaede Hoshino, everyone saluted politely. "Hello." Feng Zingai nodded at them with a smile. Then he looked at Hinata Hayashi and said, "I like the look in your eyes just now. It's good to never admit defeat. This is the spirit that ninjas need." The words of praise made Hyuga Hayashi happy, and he couldn't help but look at Uchiha Fugaku provocatively. Uchiha Fugaku snorted lightly, turned his head and looked away. It's just the temper of a child, Zengai Feng thought to himself with amusement. Hokage-sama, the schoolteacher rushed over, sweat on his forehead. I'm sorry to trouble you. No, I just happened to see it, Zengai Feng said. The school's protection work must be strictly controlled and cannot be slack. Yes, be sure to pay attention, the teacher nodded repeatedly, feeling very nervous. He turned to Rezu and said, go to the hospital quickly and be careful of infection. Hinata Hayashi nodded, saluted to Hoshino Kaede, and left quickly. Hoshino Feng chatted with the students for a while and then left. In the 28th year of Konoha, after a year of policy reforms and a sum of aid funds, Konoha's financial pressure was greatly alleviated. Zengai Feng used thundering means to forcefully reduce commercial taxes to normal levels. At the same time, villagers were encouraged to farm and trade, and a large number of people were introduced to bring a large amount of labor to Konoha. While Konoha village continues to develop, it is also constantly expanding outward in order to promote commercial development. Feng Zengai specially divided the business areas and set up one in each of the 4 directions. They also promised that merchants entering the commercial district would be exempted from certain taxes, and that they would be given priority in providing goods and channels, and that the amount of raw materials would be partially reduced. Moreover, delegated tasks will have higher priority and be faster. Once the news spread, it attracted enthusiastic responses from merchants, who requested to move in. The Land of Fire is rich in real estate, and Konoha Village is the largest ninja village with a strong foundation. What merchants care most about is their own safety, but before they could only be escorted on a commission basis. And the demand often exceeded supply. After all, there are only so many ninjas, and it's first come, first served. But Feng Zengai provided an additional method, which was to give priority to commission tasks, which directly hit the businessman's heart. How could they not be excited, not to mention a host of other benefits? The priority provision of goods and channels alone is enough to make them salivate. Suddenly, a surge of people from Konoha rushed to the Hokage building to register. Because the number is limited, many people who did not register actually paid high prices to buy the places. The price was rising every second, and the situation was clearly getting out of control. Izuo Akumi, who had already become a regular employee, rolled her eyes and offered to auction off the spot. It has to be said that this directly brought a large amount of income to Konoha as the places were sold one by one. Kahoru Tsushio was grinning from ear to ear, because it was all money in a short period of time. The commercial area was crowded with people. The population previously introduced instantly caused a chain reaction, and consumption levels increased by several levels. 3 months later in the Hokage building, Kid Hoshino sat in a chair, listening to Narashikechi's report. The commercial district's quota was auctioned for 1 billion taels, which has been remitted to the Ministry of Finance. Currently, the tax revenue for these 3 months has reached more than 2 billion, and is still rising rapidly. It can be said that Konoha's economic crisis no longer exists. Narashikechi looked excited and seemed extremely excited looking at the strings of numbers in his hand. In just over a year, Konoha's finances became abundant, consumption was stimulated, and the population increased by 30%. This result dispelled all the haze hanging over Konoha. Chapter 94, Invade Konoha and make sure he never returns. The originally wilted branches and leaves also regained vitality, as if new life was injected into them. As the saying goes, if you have money, you will not be worried. No matter which direction the wind blows, I will remain unmoved. After the joy, Zengai Feng said, keep 20% of these income as reserves, another 20% as working capital, and invest the rest in various departments to maintain operations. Ask the Ministry of Public Security to pay more attention to the business district so that nothing goes wrong right after it is set up. If something goes wrong, it will be our fault. Feng Hoshino pointed out that Konoha's current finances still need to be maintained by commercial taxes, but this is only temporary. We cannot rely on this alone. Other aspects must also develop scale and share some of the pressure. Although a single approach is good, the risk is too great and cannot compare to all-round development. Konoha's center of gravity will gradually shift in the future, trying to make development as balanced as possible. Yeah, Narashika nodded. He had expected this and had already informed the Ministry of Public Security. Now that we have the money, Konoha can plan for its future development. Hoshino Kaede said meaningfully. Narashikechi immediately understood and said seriously, I have been investigating down there for the past few months, and I have roughly grasped the basic information. The Anbu also visited every household, asking about the general situation, and basically figured out the current economic scale and proportion of Konoha. Hoshino Kaede nodded slightly. With more admiration for Naruto in his eyes, how could a leader not like such subordinates? He can not only help him share government affairs, but also give him advice. He is simply a top-notch tool. Naruto continued, due to the policy issued by Hokage, the commercial economy currently occupies more than half of Konoha, and Konoha commissions account for about 15%, agriculture accounts for 30%, and the rest is scattered economies, which account for 5%. All the precise and detailed information came out from Naruto's mouth. Hoshino Kaede narrowed his eyes, tapped his fingers on the table, and showed a thoughtful expression. According to the gathered intelligence, the average economic level of the villagers is not high, just barely enough to make ends meet or above, and most of them are engaged in occupations other than ninja. Ninjas have a high status, and the reward for one mission can be equivalent to an ordinary person's annual income. This is why so many families hope that their children can become ninjas. It is really too much to give them. After hearing this, Zingai Feng shook his head slightly inside. The gap is too big. Ninja is a high-income, high-risk profession. I'm not surprised that the economy is high. This is what they have earned with years of training and their lives, but the income of the lower-class villagers is too low. It is not right for them to be satisfied with just enough food and clothing. Naruto hesitated for a moment, but still said, Hokage-sama, these are actually pretty good. In the first few years of building the village, even maintaining a day's worth of food was a problem. Nowadays, it's already very good if every family in Konoha can have enough food. These were what he was thinking in his heart. He had experienced a time when Konoha was short of supplies. Even the ninja clan had to live on a tight budget. In comparison, life was much more comfortable now. At least, as long as you can work, you won't starve to death. Hearing this, Zingai Feng disagreed with what he said and spoke earnestly. Lu Yi, I understand your idea, but now is not the same as before. We built a village for the benefit of future generations. If it's just to satisfy your appetite, then what's the point of development? From nothing to something, and then from something to richness, this is what Konoha has been striving for. We cannot be satisfied with the status quo. For example, right now, even though I can eat enough, can I have meat every meal? Can I have extra money for entertainment? No, they are just struggling to make ends meet, so we have to work towards that goal. The words that came from the heart were like thunder from the sky, exploding above Naruto's head. For a moment, he felt mixed emotions and looked at Zingai Feng with a complicated and admiring look. I didn't think it through. Zingai Feng waved his hand. I don't blame you. You are also seeking truth from facts. I am talking about ideals. As he said this, he suddenly felt that the road was still long and there was still a long time to go. Go on. After sighing for a while, Zingai Feng said. Naruto took a deep breath, suppressed all his complicated emotions, and continued to report. As of now, apart from business, all other aspects need to be strengthened and supported, especially farmers. They basically help others farm and don't have their own fields. Zingai Feng frowned and interrupted him, saying, why is that? There are a lot of lands in Konoha, and basically no one is using them. Naruto paused, then shook his head and said, Hokage-sama, although that is true, there are often wild beasts around, and ordinary people have no way to deal with them. Only the ninja clan would send people to patrol, so there are very few villagers who own land. I see. Feng Zingai touched his chin. He seemed to have discovered a blind spot, a point that could rapidly develop agriculture. There is also the forging aspect, which I think is a very urgent matter. Naruto said worriedly. Emergency? Oh, I see. Zingai Feng was confused at first, then suddenly realized now. More than 10 years have passed since the First Shinobi World War, and the development of each village has reached saturation and the war preparedness is complete. The situation in the ninja world became strange again, and Naruto noticed this keenly. Perhaps, the next war will happen in the near future. War requires a lot of war resources, and the consumption of shurikens and kunai will increase day by day. Currently, Konoha is somewhat behind in forging. Mainly because the mineral veins are very scarce and the transportation costs are high. I remember the Hokage clan knows how to forge. Hoshino Feng suddenly thought of something. Naruto was stunned for a moment, then nodded. Yes, the Hokage clan originally forged ninja swords, and their industry and technology are very good. Is that so? Looks like I have to go look for Sakumo, said Hoshino Kaede. This matter is still under discussion. Zingai Feng thought about it, put it aside for the time being, and asked again, any more? Naruto shook his head. These are all we have for now. But these few points should probably be enough to consume us. It's just time. I have plenty of time. Zingai Feng raised the corners of his mouth and was not worried as long as he finds the problem. He won't worry about the time it takes to solve it. That's it for now. I'll think of a solution. After talking so much, the amount of information was a bit overwhelming. Zingai Feng rubbed his brows tiredly after a while. Seeing that Narashikachi had not left, he asked curiously, "What else, Hokage-sama? I'm worried. That war is not far away." War? Hoshino Feng stood up and looked out the window at the curling smoke. He saw a peaceful scene, paused, and spoke in a firm tone. "Don't worry, Konoha is never afraid of a challenge." After saying that, he turned around and looked at him firmly. "If they dare to invade Konoha, they will never return." Chapter 95, Zingai Feng and number 039's disciple. Early the next morning, Hoshino Kaede went to find Hatake Tsukumo and explained his purpose. "No problem. I naturally have no objection to cooperating with the village." Hatake Tsukumo nodded readily upon hearing this. There are naturally many benefits to Konoha cooperating with the Hatake clan, and it can also be an opportunity to make a name for itself, so why not do it? "Okay, then you go find Chief Nara and he will take care of it," Hoshino Kaede said happily. The negotiations went smoothly, which saved me a lot of trouble. Even though he is the Hokage, he cannot use his power to overwhelm others. That would be too embarrassing after solving the technical problems. The next thing is the raw materials. When it comes to investigation, the Hyuga clan is the best choice, and Kaede Hoshino immediately goes to visit them. Hinadamori was quite surprised by this, but he quickly became serious. The matter that could make the Hokage come to visit must be no small matter. "Hokage-sama, please give me your orders." Hinadamori lowered his posture very low. On the one hand, there is the identity of Hokage, and on the other hand, there is his unfathomable strength. After Zingai Feng came back, he never showed his strength again. People outside were curious about this but did not dare to ask. As the patriarch of the Hyuga family and the best master of the Hyuga family, Hyuga Mori has a very sharp vision. If it were someone else, they might not be able to guess it exactly, but at least they would have a general idea in their mind. But Hoshino Kaede was like the sea, eerily calm, as if everything was so normal, just like an ordinary person. If you really think so, then Hinadamori doesn't need to be the clan leader anymore. A calm sea does not mean it is ordinary. It may suddenly cause huge waves and sweep you to the bottom of the sea. Not to mention now, even in the past, Kaede Hoshino's strength was enough to secure the position of Hokage. There is no need to even doubt. "Hyuga clan leader, you don't have to be so polite." Zingai Feng smiled. "I came here this time to ask the Hyuga clan to cooperate with the Akimichi clan to explore for mineral veins." Mine vein." Hinadamori almost thought there was something wrong with his ears. Seeing this, Zingai Feng explained, "It is for the storage of war resources. I think the Hyuga clan leader should understand what I mean." After saying this, Hinada Shing's casual expression suddenly disappeared and turned serious in an instant. "The old lady is not convinced by the change of her expression, but I am convinced by you. I will definitely do my best," Hinada Shing promised, and the disapproval in his heart had long been thrown out of his mind. Then wait for good news. After the discussion, Zingai Feng went back. Hinada Shing's eyes changed several times, sometimes nervous, sometimes worried, but in the end, he just sighed deeply, and immediately prepared to look for Narashikachi. Back in the office, Narashika stood there motionless, and even Hoshino Kaede couldn't help but ask curiously, "Lu Yi, are you here every day? I noticed that you are always the first to arrive." After hearing this, Naradir's eyes became extremely resentful, and he complained, "Nowadays, most things need me to do them. It's good enough that I don't have to stay up all night." Cough cough. After hearing this, Zingai Feng coughed unnaturally, looking extremely embarrassed. "It seems that the exploitation of employees has gone too far. Sorry." This was all he could say. After all, he couldn't stop what was happening in Lu Yi's hands, so he could only comfort him verbally. Sigh. Narashikachi didn't expect to rest now. He just sighed. He then cheered up and began to assist Hoshino Kaede in handling government affairs. It is midsummer and the sun is scorching. While Zingai Feng was working hard, the others were also busy. "Hurry up, you still want revenge like this? I don't think you'll ever have a chance in this life." Moonlight Knight stood on the training ground, looking at the people not far away and scolded. Bai Shi'ar gritted his teeth and accelerated again with a burst of momentum. During this period, after Zingai Feng agreed to give him a chance, he was thrown to Yu Guangai, the person who was watching the show not far away. A tall building starts from the ground. Laying the foundation is a boring and tedious task, but it is something that must be experienced. Not to mention, Shiraishiyu has never had any formal training at the beginning. They stumbled and couldn't even complete the most basic training, and they would faint in the middle. But Bai Shiyu is also a stubborn person who repeats the same thing over and over again, which makes Yu Guanggai change from disdain at the beginning to admiration after learning about his life experience. Moonlight Night started to become serious. Half a day later, Bai Shiyu got a precious moment of rest. On a moonlit night, he held a piece of grass in his mouth, looking very proud. "It's okay, at least I managed to hold on." Bai Shiyu raised his sweaty head and asked, Did I meet the requirements?" There was a rare tension in his eyes, as if he was waiting for an opportunity that could change his fate. "Well," Moonlight Night touched his chin, whetting people's appetite and leaving a long gap after a terrifying pause. Moonlight Night smiled with satisfaction, squatted down and looked at him. "You have passed the test. From now on, I will be your teacher." Originally, Xingai Fen wanted to let Yu Guanggai teach him for a period of time, but Yu Guanggai fell in love with this little guy. He promised that if he could satisfy him, he would accept him as his disciple. The result can be imagined. Hearing this, Bai Shiyu's heart finally relaxed. "Listen carefully, my teacher is the third Hokage, whom you have met. You also have two uncles, and they are both busy at the moment." Yu Guangyi introduced him to the other two people from the same sect. Bai Shiyu nodded and suddenly asked, "Teacher, are you free?" A few black lines slid down Yu Guangyi's forehead, and then he slapped him on the head without any hesitation. "What do you mean? Can't you take a vacation once in a while?" Bai Shiyu covered his head and retorted, "Can you take a vacation for half a month?" "Good. Very good." The veins on Yu Guanggai's forehead bulged, and he turned around and looked around to confirm that there was no one. He walked towards Bai Shiyu with his fists rubbed, his teeth chattering as if he saw an enemy. Bang bang bang. After the repair, Moonlight Night clapped his hands, let out a sigh, and said with satisfaction, "It feels pretty good. No wonder the teacher liked to beat me. Hoshino Kaede, I'm going to beat you up. Don't you know what's going on?" There was no sound for a long time. Yu Guanggai glanced at Bai Shiyu, who was pretending to be dead, and said unhappily, "All right, you won't die. This trick of yours is something I used before." Hearing this, Bai Shiyu stood up silently without saying a word. Seeing this, Moonlight Night sighed, touched his head, and looked straight at him. "Little boy, from now on, I will take care of you so that you don't get into trouble again." Although the words were harsh, the tone was indescribably gentle. Even if Moonlight Night was slow-witted, he would be able to see that Bai Shiyu actually had a wall in his heart. This is normal. After all, everyone would be afraid of that kind of past and would arm themselves with a tough appearance and posture, but this is already in the past. From now on, Yu Guangyi will not let anyone bully his disciples. Absolutely not. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 96, When friends come, there is wine to drink. When jackals come, there is a shotgun. Bai Shiyu lowered his eyes, and unknowingly, a layer of mist appeared in his eyes. It has been a long time since anyone has spoken in such a gentle tone. Living alone forced him to grow mentally and became very sensitive to emotions. He could feel that what Moonlight Night said was sincere. Silence was the main theme at the moment. Bai Shiyu's shoulders trembled slightly and tears flooded his vision. It hung at the corner of the eye, then fell down the cheek to the ground, moistening the soil. Moonlight Night sighed and walked forward, holding the frightened little wolf cub in his arms. The warm embrace made Bai Shiyu tremble for a moment, but then he calmed down and snuggled in the arms with a hint of attachment. Woo woo, woo woo woo. The crying sound became more and more intense. From drizzle to a downpour, the grievances and fears buried in my heart were finally released in an instant under the warm care. Moonlight Night had a smile on his face, and his big hands kept patting his back to comfort him. "Teacher," after venting, Bai Shiyu said with a hint of tears in his voice. "What's wrong?" Moonlight Night asked, letting him go from her arms and looking at his tear-stained face. Later, Bai Shiyu hesitated for a while before mustering up the courage to say to him, "Can you please not leave me?" After saying that, her big eyes like black grapes looked at him motionlessly, and the expectant look in her eyes made Yu Guangyi's heart soften. "Okay," he answered softly, but it was like a heavy hammer, hitting Bai Shiyu's heart. He burst into laughter and threw himself into Moonlight Night's arms, greedily enjoying the long-lost warmth. "You." Moonlight Night looked down at the person in his arms and called out. Bai Shiyu raised his head. The traces of tears had not yet disappeared, and his face was covered with tears and snot. looking quite funny. His eyes were tense and his restless hands were clutching the corner of his clothes tightly. Fearing that this was just a dream that would be shattered at the slightest touch, but his worries were pure nonsense, Moonlight Knight said jokingly, looking at his thin face, "From now on, you have to eat more and gain some weight, so that you can be as light as a piece of paper." The next moment after Bai Shiayu's brain froze, he felt his body lighten and he subconsciously hugged Zhu Guanggai. "After coming back to my senses, I found that I was actually held up by Moonlight Knight. Just like when I was a child. Let's go get some barbecue and give you some good nourishment." Moonlight Knight hugged him and strode towards the barbecue restaurant. Bai Shiayu wiped his face and smiled happily. Okay, the 29th year of Konoha. Somewhere on the border of the Fire Nation, several figures were jumping back and forth in the dense forest, carrying scrolls behind them. Looking closely, they all wore masks and their faces could not be seen clearly. This kind of uniform and mask has always been worn only by Konoha's Anbu. "Captain, we have arrived in the land of fire, and will be able to return to Konoha in a few days." The dog-masked ninja suppressed his inner joy and reported calmly, "They were originally lurking in the Sands village with the purpose of gathering intelligence. In recent years, Konoha has frequently sent out Anbu to gather intelligence deep into other countries, and no one in the Anbu can rest this time. They follow the usual practice. Went back on time to take over and report the intelligence they knew. Everyone in the entire Anbu has been very busy for the past year, but no one dares to be careless. Being in the dark side, one naturally knows much more, and with such a big move, it's hard not to guess why. Well, let's keep going. Things have been very uneasy lately. After more than a decade of peace, the surrounding villages are starting to become restless again." The captain nodded and jumped on the tree trunk without slowing down. "Oh, war, what a disgusting word," the fox-masked ninja complained. "Who said it wasn't?" The captain sighed. "Peace is hard won and none of them wants to fight." They continued walking until evening, and they found a place to rest and built a bonfire. The world was pitch black, as if they were the only piece of pure land there. The captain sat cross-legged on the ground with his eyes closed to rest. Days of traveling had exhausted them and they were in urgent need of adjustment. "It's so quiet, there is not a sound at night." Suddenly, the dog-masked ninja said casually. It was this sentence that made the captain suddenly open his eyes and immediately become alert. The sudden movement startled several people. "Captain? What are you doing?" the fox mask said in surprise. "SHH, the captain signaled for everyone to be quiet, and then spoke in a voice that only a few people could hear. "Something is wrong here. Split up. Everyone take a copy of the intelligence and rush to Konoha." This decisive statement made several people look stern, but they quickly carried it out immediately. After everything was ready, the captain made a gesture, and then several people scattered and ran in different directions. The next moment after they left, dozens of people appeared. The leader touched the extinguished campfire and said immediately, "Chase. They can't get far." As soon as he finished speaking, he rushed out like an arrow from above. It was a dark and windy murder night, and blood was raging in invisible places. "You chase me and I chase you, just like a hunter chasing his prey. If you are caught, you will die." Puff. The Kune scratched the neck, and warm red liquid gushed out from it. The ninja wearing a dog mask had his eyes wide open with an unwilling look on his face, and then fell to the ground. "How many people are you?" the leader said coldly. "The fourth one," a person behind him said with his head down. "One of them still escaped. We can't chase him anymore." The man looked deep into the dense forest with deep eyes. On the other side is Konoha village. Standing at the top of the ninja world, a look of fear flashed across his face, and the man shook his head and said, "Let's go. We can't stay here for long." The sky gradually brightened, and a night's sleep made people feel refreshed. Hoshino Feng made a cup of strong tea and took a sip with a slightly relaxed look. "It feels so good to slack off and nothing happens." Zengai Feng sighed slightly. In the past, Hokage was like a beast of burden, with endless documents to deal with every day. How can I still make a cup of tea and sip it slowly like I do now? Boom. Narashikechi walked towards Hoshino Kaede with a gloomy and unfriendly expression. Seeing this, Zengai Feng silently took back what he had just said. He shouldn't have said that. Early this morning, only one person from an Anbu team returned, and they were ambushed by an unknown ninja, Narashikechi said quickly. Upon hearing this, Zengai Feng was very calm. "It was done by the Sand village, right?" Naradir was stunned for a moment and asked in surprise, "How did you know?" Afterwards, people were sent to search there. Although there was no direct evidence, it indirectly pointed to the Sand village. "It's very simple," Hoshino Kaede sighed. "They did not participate in the First Ninja World War. In terms of strength, they are only below Konoha, but due to their geographical location and scarce resources, they are developing very slowly. If we want to break this situation, we can no longer think about it from within, so we have to look for solutions from the outside. After hearing this, Naruto nodded and then asked, so what do we do? Zingai Feng smiled slightly, and a hint of fierceness flashed across his eyes. When friends come, there's wine to drink. When jackals come, there's a shotgun. Chapter 97 Law of Life. In the back mountain of Konoha, Feng Hoshino's eyes were deep. A strong wind was whistling around, and the ground beneath his feet was cracking, as if it had endured a tremendous force. Endless chakra poured out like a violent storm, crushing the ground dozens of meters around. Just when his momentum was about to reach its peak, his style suddenly changed, and the originally strong chakra suddenly became gentle bright green light spots wrapped around Zingai Feng's body, and a strong vitality burst out from his body immediately. A huge vortex formed above his head, and a huge pulling force instantly spread in all directions. The weak natural energy in the air quickly gathered little by little, grain by grain. Small amounts add up to a lot, and sand piles build a tower. Countless faint, invisible green light spots continuously gathered into Zingai Feng's body, and a powerful and thick warm current suddenly filled his whole body. The cracked ground beneath their feet was affected, and green grass suddenly sprouted from the cracks. Then, it spread at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the lush and fresh plants exuded unparalleled vitality. The dewdrops cling to it, like a newborn baby, pure and peaceful at first glance. It seems to soothe the restless heart. The vitality gathered and the green vortex gradually became smaller until it disappeared. At this moment, Zingai Feng only felt that his whole body was full of vigorous vitality, just like a walking pure natural and unpolluted blood bag if anyone takes a bite of it. It is estimated to be equivalent to a year of practice, just like the flesh of Tang Monk. You've given me so many surprises. I didn't expect that in this world, you could actually comprehend the true meaning of life and have a glimpse of the laws of life. Adding the law of space, one person comprehended 3 top laws. Wow, looking at the whole world, it is extremely rare. Zai's extremely surprised voice came from his mind. From her perspective, after so many years of existence, she saw that Zingai Feng had such an understanding that she had never seen before. Zingai Feng touched his nose and said, "It's okay, Zai, what's with a strong Versailles flavor? HMPH, just be happy in secret." Zai snorted. Hoshino Feng chuckled and was also happy for Zai at the beginning. Her voice was ethereal and vivid, which made people's eyes light up. However, if you listen carefully, you can find that there is no emotion at all, just like a machine. Now, as his strength increases, Zai has gradually regained his emotions and his tone has become more lively. Although I have only just begun to understand the law of life, it is already a dimensionality reduction attack for this world. The so-called six-path sage had only a shadow of the law of life at his peak, and he didn't even touch the door. Zai's ethereal and graceful voice echoed in my ears like music. Only then did Zingai Feng realize the preciousness of the law of life, but he still had some questions. Except for my laws, I should not be able to beat the six-path sage in terms of pure strength. He has only comprehended the basics, but I can actually get a glimpse of the way. A silver bell-like laughter came, as if mocking his ignorance. You have comprehended 3 laws, but you don't even know this. A dark line slid down Zingai Feng's forehead and the corner of his mouth twitched after laughing. Zai explained, the laws are engraved in all things in the universe, and every living being can comprehend them. This has nothing to do with strength. Those with weak strength can also comprehend it, but those with strong strength may not be able to comprehend it. What the law values is your own understanding. Zingai Feng spread his hands and said helplessly, what you said makes me even more confused. Oh, Zai was furious. He was so smart all his life, but so confused at this moment. He said he understood the law, but when it came down to it he didn't understand. You really don't know how lucky you are. Never mind. Just know that strength is not the only thing that matters. Seeing this, Hoshino Kaede nodded. After understanding the law of life, I feel like I have endless energy and my vitality is incredibly vigorous. Even the teacher's immortal body can't compare to it. His strength is more solid. After looking at himself, Hoshino Kaede said, this Zai said is a matter of course, that is natural. The law of life is reflected in the word life. The most obvious thing is to strengthen the foundation and consolidate the roots. It can be said that your foundation has now been cleansed to be flawless and as white as jade. The road ahead will be broader and the future will be bright. Zai became more and more excited as she spoke. Only she knew the benefits of having a deeper foundation. The lower your strength, the harder it is to break through. And every breakthrough is like a life and death calamity. The deeper the foundation, the greater the chance of breakthrough and the smoother the journey will be. The whole body is like jade. Hiss. The more you talk, the more outrageous it gets. Zing Gaifeng shuddered and got goosebumps all over his body. Outrageous? Haha, from now on you will think that I am not talking nonsense. Zar rolled his eyes at him, but didn't say much. The more you know, the more you think. There's a kind of blessing called ignorance is bliss. Just focus on the present and do the things in front of you well. You have to take one step at a time. Time, space, life. Haha, I am quite lucky. As Zing Gaifeng thought about it, the corners of his mouth raised after a moment of joy. Zing Gaifeng quickly calmed down. People are afraid of drifting away, as they will lose their direction once they drift away. Someone come here. After standing for a while, Zing Gaifeng suddenly said something. Maruboshi Kosuk appeared in front of him in an instant. Since he became Hokage, the original guard team was changed to the Hokage guard team. Another way to call it is confidant, absolute confidant. Currently, there is only Guji in the guard team. More people means more eyes, so having fewer people would also be beneficial. Kosuk, go tell Hirozen and Denzo to step up their war preparations and speed up the mining of ore, Hoshino Kaede said seriously. Instantly entering the role of Hokage. Previously, the Hyuga and Akimichi clans were asked to explore the mineral veins and continue to search. Finally, 2 super large mineral veins were found, both of which were the type that Konoha urgently needed. It has to be said that the richness of resources in the Fire Nation crushes the other 4 nations. Of course, it is also fortunate that resources such as mineral veins are not yet valued, and at most they are used to make equipment and tools. The remaining basic usage is very small, and no one is actively trying to monopolize it. Also, tell Luya that except for the necessary spies, all other ambush should be recalled. Maruboshi Kosuk's expression was stern, and the deep meaning behind these orders made him shudder. It's not that he knows nothing. He heard that some Anbu members were attacked and killed some time ago. It is said that the Sand Ninja acted secretly, trying to cut off the source of information, but failed in the end. When he thought of this, Guji suppressed his inner speculation, nodded, and disappeared in an instant. Zing Gaifeng narrowed his eyes, as if he remembered something, and couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth. The Sand Village will serve as the nutrients for Konoha's growth. Chapter 98, The Whirlpool Country is in danger. Konoha attacks. Half a year later, the situation in the ninja world became increasingly serious, and even ordinary villagers could sense that something was wrong. Just a few days ago, Konoha unilaterally announced that it would restrict the entry and exit of caravans and reduce the flow of people. Although it was sudden, there were not many voices of opposition. As if everyone had agreed, the atmosphere became visibly tense, and every household was on edge. The Hokage building worked all night long without stopping for a moment. Hoshino Kaede was secretly preparing for war and accumulating resources and strength. If he wasn't there, the next development would probably be Konoha passively attacking and fighting against the Sand Ninja. But now everything has changed. Zing Gaifeng had ordered secret development long before the war broke out. If the Sand Ninja dares to invade, he will be given a heavy blow. Just as Konoha was preparing for war, a piece of news suddenly disrupted everyone's mood. The Whirlpool Country is in danger. After learning the news, Feng Zinggai held an emergency meeting to discuss solutions. Looking at everyone gathered again, Zing Gaifeng knocked on the table and said seriously, the Whirlpool Country has been invaded by the other 4 countries. According to the intelligence, it can no longer hold on. As an ally of the Whirlpool Country, Konoha must show an attitude and cannot remain silent and play dead. The implication is obvious. Zing Gaifeng will not sit idly by, and will even take the initiative to send troops to help. Everyone looked at each other, making eye contact, but no one spoke. They all felt that it was unwise to send troops at this time, as it would consume Konoha's strength in vain and was not worth it. But everyone present was smart, so they naturally understood the hint and would not refuse outright. Seeing that no one spoke, Narashikazu sighed, feeling helpless and tired. These people still hold on to the old ideas. Don't they know that times have changed? It's not a matter of life and death, so just say it out. Hokage-sama, I do not agree with sending troops. Narashikachi made his attitude clear. He was looking at Konoha as a whole. Even though Konoha is the strongest, rashly sending troops to help will not bring anything back for Konoha. The land of whirlpools is far away from Konoha. Even if we send troops now, it won't change anything. It may even start the Ninja World War ahead of time. It's not worth it for us, and it might even disrupt our plans. His attitude was firm, and Narashika made his words clear, explaining the pros and cons to everyone. His words were also what everyone thought, and they couldn't help but nod. After saying that, everyone looked at Zing Gaifeng again, wondering if Liu's words could change Zing Gaifeng's mind. What about others? Do they have the same idea? Zing Gaifeng asked again, wanting to see if there were any different opinions. There was silence, and everyone remained silent at this time. Hatake Tsukumo, who was standing by the window, suddenly said, "Hokage-sama, I think sending someone from Konoha is a good way to achieve the best of both worlds." Zingifeng motioned for him to continue. "What do you mean?" As the head of the Anbu, Hatake Tsukumo usually has a low presence and hardly speaks, but no one will ignore him just because he controls the most powerful department in Konoha. No one dares to underestimate him. The alliance between Konoha and the Land of Whirlpool started during the time of the First Hokage, and it has remained the same until now. First, if Konoha doesn't send anyone, it will damage Konoha's image and make people think that Konoha is untrustworthy. Secondly, judging from the distance, even if we rush to the Whirlpool country, it will have been destroyed, but Konoha can take over the remaining Uzumaki clan. This way, the Uzumaki clan will still exist in the world, the covenant will not be broken, and Konoha's strength will increase. It can be said that it kills two birds with one stone. With benefits and no harm. Every word that Hatake Tsukumo said made Hoshino Kaede happier. Even Narashikechi didn't think of this. "What Tsukumo said is exactly what I was thinking." Hoshino Feng was very pleased. Tsukumo had a long-term vision, and what he said really touched his heart. Everyone looked left and right, and Uchiha Kitajima took the lead in expressing his attitude. "Konoha should send troops, old fox." Everyone cursed inwardly, and then agreed, fearing that they were too late. As soon as the Naruto digested what had just been said, he nodded and said, "If that's the case, then it would be very advantageous for Konoha to send someone." Seeing this, Hoshino Kaede made the decision directly. "In that case, Hatake Tsukumo and Uchiha Kitajima will lead the team to the Land of Whirlpools. Later, I will write a personal letter for you to take to the chief of the Whirlpool Nation to explain my purpose. From what I know about him, he will not disagree when the life and death of the tribe is at stake." Hatake Tsukumo nodded and said, "Yes." Uchiha Kitajima was overjoyed. He did not expect that Hoshino Kaede would let him join the team. This is a good sign, showing how much the Star Yifeng values Uchiha. The other families all had envious looks on their faces. The importance of this assignment was self-evident, but who made him the first one to agree? After the meeting, the two rode at full speed, quickly gathered the team, and then headed straight for the Whirlpool Kingdom. Hoshino Kaede stood on the top of the Hokage building, looking at their departing figures from afar, his eyes deep, and muttered to himself, "I hope the fate of the Uzumaki clan can change." Then, he turned around and said, "Master's wife has been listening outside for so long. Why didn't she come in?" There was one person missing from the meeting just now, and he was the person who should not be missing. Uzumaki Miro slowly walked over and said with a gentle smile, "Because I know you won't sit idly by, and the Uzumaki clan will definitely return to Konoha." Zingifeng laughed and said, "Master's wife really trusts me." Then, he paused and said, "But the Whirlpool country will no longer exist, and there won't be any more in the future. You should know this, Master's wife. Why did the four great nations attack the Land of Whirlpools? It was for the advanced sealing technique in the ninja world. Sealing techniques are special, and each village's sealing techniques are extremely rare. Ever since the First Hokage distributed the tailed beasts to other villages, sealing techniques have become even more precious. The Land of Whirlpools possesses the most sophisticated sealing technique in the entire ninja world, but its strength is too weak. Isolated overseas and far away from the mainland, the country's overall strength is too poor. It is simply a piece of fat meat. Being invaded is only a matter of time." Uzumaki Miro looked gloomy inside. "I have told my father many times to let the tribe members learn ninjutsu, but the concept is deeply rooted in their minds and cannot be shaken off. Having a sophisticated sealing technique but no power to protect it would be a huge disaster for the tribe. Ultimately, this led to the current situation." Zingifeng deeply agrees with this. If you want to have an equal dialogue with others, you must have the strength to match them. Dignity is earned through fighting, not blindly tolerating. The Whirlpool country does not strive for progress and sticks to the rules, so its destruction is only a matter of time now. It has just come true. Although the Whirlpool country is gone, the Whirlpool clan is still there, and that's enough. Uzumaki Mito was feeling scared but also feeling relieved. At least, the country is destroyed, but the people are still there. Chapter 99, Surrounded by the Strong, the Third Hokage. A few days later, Hatake Tsukumo and Uchiha Kitajima arrived at the Land of Whirlpools, both with serious looks. "Huh? I'm still late. I didn't expect them to fight so quickly." There were corpses all over the ground. Judging from their foreheads and clothing styles, 90% of them were ninjas and civilians from the Land of Whirlpools. Hatake Tsukumo squatted down and took a closer look at the fatal wound, which was caused by lightning release. This kind of lightning style should be a cloud ninja. After a simple assessment, Hatake Tsukumo's eyes darkened. No matter how hard he tried, he still couldn't catch up. Uchiha frowned, then opened his Sharingan. 3 Magatama appeared, and a cold aura emanated from his body. There is a strong reaction of chakra ahead. Upon hearing this, Hatake Tsukumo made a gesture, then lowered his body and moved towards it from the side, looking forward beyond the dense grass. There is an open plain, and directly in front is the last line of defense of the Whirlpool country. The Uzumaki ninjas still held their ground stubbornly, but the four-nation alliance was clearly much stronger and did not give them even a moment to rest. The purpose of using a rotation battle and attacking in turns is to consume their physical strength and win at the lowest cost. The situation is not good. This should be the last defense of the Uzumaki clan. Uchiha Kitajima watched carefully. A rough look at the strength of the ninjas in the Whirlpool country can give you a rough idea of their strength compared with the elite Shikoku ninjas. The gap is obviously too big. They can hold on until now thanks to the terrain that is easy to defend and difficult to attack. Can you see clearly how many people are left in the Uzumaki clan? Hatake Tsukumo asked in a deep voice. Uchiha Kitajima counted carefully and replied, "It is estimated that there are about 100 people, but I can't tell the exact situation. The Sharingan's advantage is in actual combat and illusion, but it cannot compare to the Byakugan in terms of observation." Hearing this, Hatake Tsukumo immediately turned his head and looked at someone in the team. "Kumiko, go check on the Uzumaki clan's situation. By the way, check who has come from other ninja villages." Hinata Kumiko nodded, and terrifying meridians appeared around his eyes, and a pair of pure white eyes appeared. The vision within 1 kilometer is extremely clear, just like having X-ray vision. "Captain, the 7 ninja swordsmen of the Mist Village have arrived, the Raikage of the Cloud Village has come in person, and the Rock Village and the Sand Village have both sent several elite Jonin." After observing for a while, Hinata Kumiko was extremely shocked. This lineup was too powerful. He couldn't help but swallow his saliva and looked at Hatake Tsukumo. When Uchiha Kitajima heard this, his heart sank, and he felt extremely stressed. Even the Raikage has come out in person. It seems like they are determined to win. "Tsukumo, what should we do?" All eyes were focused on Hatake Tsukumo, and to be honest, he was also under a lot of pressure at the moment. Every cage is not someone to be trifled with. They are the ones standing at the pinnacle of the ninja world. Hatake Tsukumo didn't dare to guarantee that he could defeat the Raikage, not to mention that there were people from other villages around who might not interfere. But now the arrow is on the string and it has to be shot. After forcing himself to calm down, Hatake Tsukumo took a deep breath, and then his whole body became extremely sharp, like an unparalleled sword about to be unsheathed. He said in a deep voice, "Let's go out, everyone." Hinata Kumiko widened his eyes, thinking he had heard wrongly. "Minister, you are kidding me?" Uchiha Kitajima frowned and asked in confusion, "Tsukumo, if we go out now, it's clear that we have 2 fists and 4 hands." Everyone agreed with Kitajima's words, but Hatake Tsukumo shook his head and looked at them. "No, hiding here is unwise. Have you forgotten what we are here for? Hokage-sama wants us to bring back the remaining members of the Uzumaki clan. Hiding will only cause more conflict." Hinata Kumiko scratched his head, a look of question marks on his face. Uchiha Kitajima glanced at him thoughtfully, then continued, "So, you want to convince me with reason, but don't forget, war is never lenient. You and I both know that." Hatake Tsukumo chuckled, a cold look flashed in his eyes, and he rubbed his white teeth with his fingers and said coldly, "No, the correct way is to use force first and courtesy later. Strength is the basis for speaking." Uchiha Kitajima's mouth twitched. After saying so much, he still had to fight, but it was always a method. "Let's go." Hatake Tsukumo rushed out first, showing his figure, and walked out in a swagger. The others looked at each other and followed. Uchiha Kitajima hit his Sharingan. His eyes were sharp, his aura was ready to be unleashed, and a strong murderous intent was brewing in his heart. He could see the movements of Konoha's group at a glance. Hatake Tsukumo walked in front. His fierce momentum seemed to break through the sky. The ninjas around felt their eyes soar at the sight, as if a short blade had pierced their eyeballs. Such undisguised behavior immediately aroused their vigilance. "Hatake Tsukumo, I didn't expect it to be you," the 3rd Raikage said in a buzzing voice. His strong muscles covering his whole body, as if they were made of steel, extremely hard. "I can't help it. The Whirlpool country is Konoha's ally, so the Hokage specially asked me to come here." Hatake Tsukumo raised his eyes and responded calmly, looking in other directions out of the corner of his eye. Even as the two were talking, they were surrounded, and it seemed that they were going to be annihilated right here in one fell swoop. The 3rd Hokage, Hoshino Kaede, when he was mentioned, the Raikage's eyes lit up with fighting spirit, eager to compete with him. "HMPH, a contemptuous voice came, Interrupting the conversation between the two, Hatake Tsukumo looked in the direction of the voice and saw a man with yellow hair, wearing a Kirigakure Anbu mask, with a look of disdain on his face. So what if he's the third Hokage? He's nothing but trash in front of me, Kurizen Kishimaru said arrogantly. His words caused everyone in Konoha to glare at him angrily. Asshole. What did you say, you little Jonin? You actually insulted the Hokage. You are just a kid who hasn't even grown all his hair yet, and you have such high aspirations that you want to be compared to the Hokage. How dare you? Everyone in Konoha cursed angrily. Every word was full of real hurt, and they kept mocking. How dare a Jonin compete with a Kage? He is just sitting in a well and looking at the sky. He has no idea what he is talking about. Uchiha Kitajima narrowed his eyes, calculating the consequences of killing him. Kurizen Kishimaru just sneered at this, isn't it? The Hokage didn't dare to come here in person, so he sent an unknown person. It's no exaggeration to say that he is a coward. Even his teammates couldn't stand what he said. The watermelon mountain pufferfish ghost frowned and said, that's enough. Do you know what you are talking about? If it doesn't hurt, Leshanshuan doesn't care. Oh, I just told the truth. How can this be wrong? The Raikage folded his arms and looked on coldly. The first bird to stick its head out gets shot. It would be great if there was someone to help test it out. It's a good opportunity to see where Konoha's bottom line is. Chapter 100. Harmony is the most important thing. Kurizen Kishimaru looked at the Konoha ninja in front of him with disdain, with a corner of his mouth slightly raised just as he was about to utter another sarcastic remark. Suddenly all the hairs on his body stood up. It felt like being stared at by a ferocious beast. Really creepy. The ninja's instincts surged into his mind like a tide at this moment, frantically sounding the alarm to him. Not good, Kurizen Kishimaru cried out in his heart, but before he could make any move, he heard a loud buzz, and a dazzling white light suddenly flashed. There was no time for everyone to react. They only saw the white light rushing towards them like lightning in a flash. He arrived in front of Kurizen Kishimaru. Then, with a muffled thump, Kurizen Kishimaru flew backwards like a kite with a broken string, and fell heavily to the ground. When I came to my senses, I saw Hatake Tsukumo standing there with the white fang in his hand and a cold look in his eyes. Bastard! Biwajuzang was furious, his blood boiling, and he swung the beheading sword as if it were his arm. He gathered all his strength and rushed towards Hatake Tsukumo with great force, but the gap in strength between the two was too big. Hatake Tsukumo held the white fang across his chest, colliding with the beheading sword and easily blocking it. Clang! Metal and iron collide, splashing sparks. Hatake Tsukumo's expression was calm, like stagnant water, emitting a cold and mysterious aura that seemed to drag people down. That cold gaze made Biwajuzang's courage falter. His aura collapsed in an instant and his whole body trembled. The suffocating atmosphere made him feel like a mayfly that could die at any time. Jizo! Come back! Seeing this, the watermelon mountain puffer ghost shouted angrily. A startled shout brought Biwajuzang back to his senses. He gritted his teeth, took a deep breath, broke free, and returned to the camp. The watermelon mountain puffer ghost breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately he was back. Then he looked at Hatake Tsukumo and said with a bad look, Hatake Tsukumo, what do you mean? Are you trying to start a war? Hearing this, Hatake Tsukumo's mouth curled up slightly. He glanced around, and said something with a hint of meaning. Tisk, isn't this caused by war? Or are so many of you here traveling? After saying this, the watermelon mountain puffer ghost's face turned ashen and he cursed himself in his heart. That's right, you invaded other countries, and you still have the nerve to talk about war. Shame on you, you didn't say a word about invading other countries. This is really eye-opening. Ha ha ha, you are so shameless. I really don't know what you are thinking. Everyone in Konoha burst into laughter, looking at each other with contempt. This is really a case of the thief crying stop thief. I have never seen such a shameless person who is the first to provoke a war and even use this as an excuse. Hatake Tsukumo looked at them, and a sharp sword force rose up like an overwhelming force, pointing directly at the 7 ninja swordsmen. Let's put the war aside for now. The Hokage of Konoha is not someone you cats and dogs can insult. You can't even beat me, so what qualifications do you have to speak so arrogantly here? Aren't you ashamed? As soon as these words were spoken, everyone in Konoha cheered and their morale soared. They defeated the Mist Village and completely destroyed their spirit. The third Raikage said at this time, boy, the destruction of the Whirlpool country is a foregone conclusion. You are too late. Hatake Tsukumo's eyes fixed. He looked at him and said, since it has been destroyed, then what are you still doing here? Are you trying to kill us all? As he spoke, a fierce sword force rushed out all at once and immediately rushed towards the third Raikage. The sharp sword force turned into countless silver needles, stabbing at him densely. The Raikage laughed loudly, with lightning pulsating on his body. Interesting. You are demonstrating. Unfortunately, you have found the wrong person. After saying this, violent thunder spread all over his body, and his body, which was like steel, stood firm. The domineering aura instantly shattered the silver needle, and rushed towards Hatake Tsukumo without losing momentum. Boom, boom. Hatake Tsukumo directly bore the aura of the representative shadow and felt his blood boiling. He was not afraid but excited. Instead, the ground beneath his feet cracked, rocks flew everywhere, and lightning flashed from time to time, pressing down on him until his face turned red. Just when Hatake Tsukumo was about to give up after gritting his teeth, the third Raikage suddenly withdrew, so strong, Hatake Tsukumo's heart sank. Since he started practicing, apart from Hoshino Kaede who could directly suppress him, the third Raikage was the only one who could make him feel pressured with such strength. He is worthy of the name of Shadow. Moreover, he seems to be a battle maniac who feeds on fighting. He is really a terrifying man. Hatake Tsukumo, right, the Raikage said. I've remembered your name. You will surely become famous in the ninja world in the future. The Kage of a village has spoken, which shows how much he values Tsukumo. Perhaps, after today, all the villages will study him. You're too kind, Raikage. Hatake Tsukumo took a deep breath, calmed himself down and said he will get this honor himself, instead of relying on someone else. The Raikage also sensed his thoughts and smiled heartily. You have a bright future. Konoha is so lucky. With the emergence of Feng Xinggai and you, this village is truly blessed by God. Hatake Tsukumo retorted, no, Konoha is what it is today because of everyone's hard work. Hearing this, the Raikage nodded. Indeed, the conversation between the two was totally off topic, which left the others confused. Shouldn't we have a big battle now and wipe out the Uzumaki clan in one fell swoop? Why are we talking about it now, Lord Raikage? Should we? A cloud ninja whispered beside the Raikage. He looked at the ninja of Konoha, and the meaning was self-evident. They have the advantage now. As long as the Raikage gives the order, they will attack in groups and will definitely kill all the Konoha members here unexpectedly. The Raikage shook his head, looked deeply at Hatake Tsukumo, and said in a deep voice, no, let's go. The matter of the Whirlpool country ends here. The Raikage's words instantly made the Kumo ninja freeze in place, not understanding why. Lord Raikage. Why? Before they could finish, the Raikage gave them a quick glance, and instantly silenced them in the Cloud Village. The Raikage's words are the law, and no one will resist even if they were unwilling. They had no choice but to swallow it back afterwards. The Raikage returned to the village with his troops and spoils after such a long battle. The Cloud Ninja village made a fortune and at least obtained the sealing technique. Seeing the Cloud Ninjas retreating, the remaining ninja village looked extremely unhappy without the Kumagakure and the Raikage. Almost no one present could be a match for Hatake Tsukumo. Everyone saw his move just now. With that kind of strength, he was able to withstand the overwhelming momentum of the Raikage. If we ask ourselves honestly, we cannot defeat them one by one, and staying here will only be futile. The others looked at each other, all intending to retreat. There is a big gap in top combat power between the two sides, so there is no need to make unnecessary sacrifices. Immediately afterwards, the coalition forces withdrew from the Whirlpool country, and a situation that should have led to war was broken up in such a muddle. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.